council meetings electronically. Members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting of council by accessing the meeting, which will be live streamed on our Middlesex Centre YouTube channel. The Committee of Adjustment and public meetings for planning items will begin at approximately 6 p.m. So item number 2, additions and deletions to the agenda. First of all, item 7.1 for a proposed mobile food outlet bylaw has been removed from the agenda and will be considered at a future meeting. And there are no additions, so we can move to disclosures of pecuniary interest. I look to members of council for any disclosures that you wish to note.
Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor here, I do have a conflict of interest. The minor variances for the dairy barn at 13570 Medway Road. I have filed the proper paperwork with the clerk, so I will be shutting my video off when that item comes to council.
Thank you. That's good to know. And we can move on now to item number 4, delegations. I'm going to ask our CAO, Michael, to do the introductions.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the mayor, I'm very happy to have this opportunity to introduce you to 3 graduate students from Western University. And this is one of those partnerships where the municipality is always looking to do reach out and cooperate and work with our institutions. And we've done that with Fanshawe, and we've done that with various universities, including Western. And so at the beginning of this year, we were approached and we decided to have some dialogue with a program management course at Western, and was coupled with 3 graduate students to undertake a review with the focus of looking at business retention and expansion for our communities and our businesses in the municipality. And so I'm happy to report that throughout the 3-month term, the study analysis worked its way in a positive manner, where the students that I'll introduce you to performed a proper survey outreach that consisted of creating a catchment of all the businesses, broken out into various segments. And then through the survey information that was synthesized, we were able to get some understanding in terms of what drivers the municipality can take to do some continued outreach and to maintain good relations in terms of expansion of businesses to Middlesex Centre, as well as keeping those businesses that we've had here for a long time and understanding what their needs are. So I'm very happy to introduce you to the 3 students that'll be coming on so that they can do a brief summary of their presentation. A couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to participate in their class review and very pleased with the results. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity for you to hear from them directly and for them to do the same type of presentation. So without further ado, I'll introduce you when they come on.
I've been told they're not here yet, Michael. Maybe we could, we'll hold that thought and we could just move to the adoption of the minutes while we're waiting for them to come on.
Sure.
Okay. Item number 5.1, the minutes of the April 14th meeting. The motion before us is that those minutes of the Middlesex Centre Council meeting held on that date be adopted as printed. Do I have a mover and seconder? Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Cates. Any opposed? I don't see any. The minutes are carried then. I'll just move on to consent. Yeah, I'll just keep moving on till I get a notice that they've arrived. So on the consent agenda, we have items 6.1 through 6.4. I'll ask councillors, are there any questions from anyone on any of those items? Councillor Scott.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, the Mayor, to Scott. I just had a question about the Delaware Community Center roof. Does that include both roofs, Scott, or is that just the main roof?
Through the mayor, sorry, Councillor Scott, can you just repeat that? In the transition of me coming on, I lost the tail end. I heard, is it both roofs, but I didn't hear the rest of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, Scott. I was just curious, is it just the main roof that they're doing for that price, or is that the whole complete roof?
Through the mayor, it's just the lower roof. The main hall roof is actually in good shape. Doesn't need to be replaced. So that is simply the lower roof that would go over the meeting room, kitchen, archives, OPP, dance room, washrooms, etc. It's in poor shape. There's actually quite a bit of vegetation growing up there as well. The part of the cost, the additional cost of the project, or why it may seem so large, we have to actually crane off all of the HVAC units and rebuild the curbs as well. So there's a lot to the project.
Okay, I was wondering that because I thought the cost was a lot, even for the main roof. That's why, but I figured that if all of the units are in there and probably all the exhausts and stuff have to be redone, maybe, eh?
Correct. Yeah, there's 2 older exhausts that will be removed. There's, like I said, the HVACs have to be craned off and recurbing done there. So.
Okay. Yeah. No, thank you. Surprising on the amounts, though. Really surprised. Holy. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Are there any other questions? Okay, just before I ask for the motion, I just want to comment on item 6.1. This is the Municipal Code of Conduct Review, and I know that our staff moved immediately when that announcement came through as something that we should look at. The request came from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So thank you for that, and appreciate that really quick response. There's lots of time still to participate, so thank you. Since there are no other questions, then the motion before us is that item 6.1 through 6.4 listed under the heading of consent agenda for April 28th, 2021 be adopted as recommended. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates and Councillor Scott, are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. And I still don't see our guests. I think we'll move on to staff reports. 7.1 is deferred. So the first item up is 7.2, always stop. I'm going to ask Rob Cascadden, our Director of Engineering, to present that report, please.
Hi, good evening. Sorry, just cut it there for a second. So, yeah, good evening. I'm pleased to provide this short report for the provision of all-way stops at 2 locations in Komoka. So the purpose of the report is to receive council endorsement to amend the existing traffic bylaw to create these 2 additional all-way stops in Komoka at intersections that are in close proximity to the CN rail line underpasses. Of the 3 underpasses, 1 location currently has a 3-way or all-way stop, and the other 2 do not. Sufficient sight lines at the intersections are one important aspect of the intersection safety. Minimum sight lines are required for both pedestrian and vehicle safety at these locations. So back probably about a month ago, staff had received a safety concern from a local resident regarding these locations. And as a result, our staff completed reviews at each intersection and determined that the sight lines are impeded at both locations due to the presence of the underpasses. The 2 locations are St. Lawrence Ave and Springer Street, and Delaware Street at St. Clair Avenue. So both intersections have limited visibility when looking north through the underpasses, or vice versa when looking south from traveling south through the underpass. So the sight line distances in those directions are approximately only 20 to 25 meters, where the minimum stopping sight distance required for the 50-kilometer speed zone is about 65 meters. So the Ontario Traffic Manual does note that stop signs can be considered where the traffic analysis indicates that there are restricted sight lines, even when it is in areas of low volume local traffic. So staff recommend that all-way stops be installed at both these intersections through the addition of 2 new stop signs at each of these locations. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for that. We'll start with Councillor Cates.
I just want to say thank you for doing this. This is, it may seem like small in some ways to some people, but to especially people that have lived there for 50 or 60 years, it's really, really big. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? I don't see any hands, so the motion before us is that report PWE 12/2021 regarding Always Stop, addressing sightline and safety concerns be received, and that the Parking and Traffic Bylaw 2019, number 92, be amended as per Appendix A, appended to report PWE 12/2021. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates and Councillor Heffernan, any opposed? I don't see any, so the motion is carried. Thank you for that report, Rob.
Thank you.
Moving, Councillor Arts.
To your Madam Mayor, I just got thinking, I know our council meeting started at 5:30, but the other day I looked at something and it said planning at 6:30. So our UWO students, they might be getting 5:30 and 6:30 confused, because I should have known what I was doing and I had to double check. Just, thank you.
Notice to say 6 p.m.
Okay, yeah, the clerk is saying that he thinks that everything's in order here. So the 6 o'clock start for the planning meeting has been published. And nobody else. I think we'll move on now to Scott. Item 7.3 is the community improvement plan applications. Would you like to present that report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Back in, council remembers back in 2020, we looked to do an update of the CIP, Community Improvement Plan, to expand the program throughout the balance of the community of Middlesex Centre. So then that was approved at council back in November of last year. In the new plan, there's now 6 grant categories that a business could apply for. That's the facade and signage improvement grant, development charges, property tax increment, building fee reimbursement, retrofits or modifications, and allowance for renovation or construction costs related to a significant health event. It was in March, we released the intake, or opened the intake. I think it was late February, sorry. I have to say it was well received throughout the community. In the past, with it only applying to Ilderton, we were trying very hard to make sure the businesses were aware of it. However, we'd only receive 1 or 2 or perhaps not even any applications. So happy to say that this one was well received, and we had lots of good questions and some good projects coming forward. As you can see in the report, the majority of the applications are fall under the facade and signage stream. The one outlier, I guess, would be the rebate and rental costs for the King Edward restaurant. So we had good conversation with Rich through this intake, and happy to say the evaluation of these applications went really well with the committee. We met a few weeks back, and happy to say we are putting forward these applications for the amount of $29,479.02. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. I see Councillor Shipley's hand.
Thank you, Mayor. Through the Mayor, Scott, just how does the reimbursement work? Like, does the work get done and they submit the bill and we give them the money, or how does that take place?
Yes, through the Mayor. So if approved tonight by council, projects and some have started. Obviously, they need to start these projects themselves as a business. If approved tonight, payment will come at the end of the project when they can provide final invoices, proof of payment, and pictures, etc., of the final project.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Heffernan.
Through the Mayor, I just wanted to say that, yes, there was quite a variety of applications this time, including in Ilderton again, and that's great to use the funds, because I think it's worthwhile to support our small businesses. I just wanted to confirm with Scott, so that's the intake this year. There's no more intake, and the maximum budget was 30,000, I believe, so we were just under it.
Through the mayor, that's correct. Yep. Yeah, we just fell under it. Once we did the math and we did the evaluations, it worked out quite well, and we're just under budget. So yeah, there'll be no more. There won't be a second intake this time around.
Is there anyone else? Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, to Scott. Due to the amount of interest now and the fact that it's across the township, across the municipality, do we need to look at increasing that amount a little bit? Is that some thought you should give for next year's budget to maybe increase it a bit?
Through the mayor, I might defer to Michael on this. It might be, certainly worthwhile discussion. I think through what we've learned through this process, it did open up a few more questions for us. As businesses are not unique to a central core. Some businesses are out in the country or out in, outside of the kind of business districts, and just a few other things that we might tighten up a little bit as far as the application process goes. But perhaps, yeah, we can, I'll defer to Michael, but we can certainly look at that within the budget for next year.
Through the mayor to Deputy Mayor Brennan to council. Yes, absolutely. You're bang on, Deputy Mayor. I think undertaking this review of our community improvement plan and adding more incentives and also expanding it to across the municipality sure proves that it's a useful tool for the municipality to provide its support to our community businesses. And I think that's a discussion item that we can have when it comes to budget committee later this year, that we can maybe add a little bit more funding to this worthwhile program, because we really are limited in how we can support our businesses, and this is one tool, which is a good tool to use. So yes, we will look at that.
Councillor Arts, go ahead, please.
Through your mayor to Scott, say there would have been $60,000 that could have been approved and the budget was 30. Do you just prorate everything 50% then, or is it a first come, first serve, or exactly what would have happened if you got oversubscribed? I guess that's my question.
Through the mayor, well, the maximum that any one project is permitted is $5,000. So if you see on there, a few of the applicants are just shy of that 5,000. So it's 50% of the total cost of the project, up to $5,000. So if we had 60 in the budget, and we had these applications and we had remaining budget, we may look at a second intake. However, that being said, if we had 30 applications and we only had $30,000, it then, through our evaluation criteria, will impact how many get approved and to what value, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Councillor Cates, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor Scott. So just, I don't know if you said this or not. So everybody, these are all the people that applied and all the people got something?
Through the mayor, yes, correct. We did have, I had, how many's on there? 8, right? I think I had 9 interviews, 8 came forward. 8 applications came forward. None were denied, but 1 had pulled out.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? I don't see any hands, so I'm just happy to see that we've got names we recognize and that are longstanding companies and establishments in our municipality, but I also see new names and more newly started businesses. So it's really good to see this interest and the support for the communities. So thank you, staff, for that report and the work you were doing on this project. The motion before us is that report CMS 06-2021 regarding the community improvement plan applications be received, and that council approves the recommendations of the community improvement plan evaluation committee for the following projects: this Oak House, Jezebel Soaps, King Edward Restaurant, Saker Realty, Compass Rose Wellness, McLaughlin Family Syrup, Parsons Pump Works, and Tomlin Holdings Corporation. Yeah, and that's the whole list. So could I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Shipley and Councillor, Councillor Scott still up. Okay, thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. And thank you again, Scott, for that report. So our guests are not here. We should move to, where are we? Correspondence. Yes, which is item 10 on your agenda. There are 6 items here. I'll let you get there first, and then I'll ask, are there any questions or any comments on any of these? I see shaking of head. Does anyone want to ask anything? No? Very well, then the motion before us is that items 10.1 through 10.6 listed under the heading of correspondence for April 28th, 2021 be received as information. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Heffernan and Deputy Mayor Brennan, any opposed? I don't see any. That is carried. Thank you. County Council was cancelled, so I don't have to call on the Deputy Mayor tonight. We do have a number of items under other business. 12.1. Is there anybody that wants to comment on this? Michael, is there anything that needs to be said, or do you want to say anything? No? No. Okay. Well, it's pretty straightforward. We need a resolution of council. It's required to confirm an appointment of a member of council to the Blue Water Recycling Association Board of Directors in order to fill the vacancy there. The motion is that's before us is that council confirm the appointment of Ward 4 Councillor Sue Cates as the representative to the Blue Water Recycling Association for the remainder of the 2018-2020 term of council. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Shipley and Councillor Heffernan, are there any opposed? I see none. That motion is carried. Congratulations, Councillor Cates. And next up is the illumination standards. I provided notice at the last meeting regarding the motion of municipal illumination standards at the April 14th, 2021 council meeting. And now that it was tabled, we can consider it by council. Is there anyone that wants to speak to this at all? I don't see any. So the motion before us is, whereas the appropriate standards and effective management of illumination in Ontario communities is a topic of increasing interest to many groups and individuals, and whereas the best practices and industry standards for surrounding effective illumination practices are changing with the introduction of new green technologies which promote energy conservation as a part of effective lighting techniques, and whereas municipalities have the authority to enact bylaws and policies which help to standardize and promote effective lighting practices, now therefore be it resolved that staff review the current research, industry standards, and best practices with regard to municipal illumination standards, and that staff is to explore factors including but not limited to cost efficiencies, impacts on security and safety, and opportunities to improve quality of life for residents when undertaking this review. And further that, a report to council outlining the potential costs and benefits related to any proposed recommendations regarding implementation of municipal illumination standards over time be presented to council once this review is complete. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Cates, are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. We have 7 minutes until 6 o'clock. We can recess until 6 when we'll begin our Committee of Adjustment meeting. So everyone can take a little break now. See you at 6.
I have a question. Are we still live?
Yes. And I have 6 o'clock, so I think we should move forward. I'm going to ask the CAO to introduce our presenters. Apparently they're here, so we can get started.
Great, thanks, Mayor DeVete. Through the chair to members of council, I'm very happy to introduce you to the project management students that are going to be coming on. As I explained, I had the privilege to work with Tanya Petrella, Nadine Rodrigues, and Kathy Lee. And they did a great job doing a project for the municipality, which they presented to their class a couple of weeks ago now, I think. And so I was so pleased with their performance that I asked them to come and do the same presentation to our council and the general public. I think there's benefit to seeing these relationships and this collaboration, and the professionalism that these 3 young ladies showed was bar none. So I just wanted to thank them on behalf of staff, and it was a pleasure working with them. And I just want them to do the presentation that they did for their class to you, because I think it's very beneficial. So without further ado, I'll let them take it away.
Thank you and welcome. I'll turn it over to you, ladies, and I look forward to hearing your presentation.
Perfect, thank you. If it's all right, I'm just going to share my screen here. Can you see it?
It's all clear.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Tanya, and my team, Kathy and Nadine, and I welcome you to our CEL project for Middlesex Center. Today, we'll go through a brief introduction, a project overview, our survey deliverable, and our recommendations.
To give everyone some background about the team, the 3 of us, Nadine, Tanya, and myself, are graduate students from Western University's Master of Management of Applied Science program. And for the last 4 months, we were working on a community engaged learning project for our project management course, with our community partner being Middlesex Center, which Tanya will now dive into.
So as you know, we had the pleasure of working with Michael with the purpose to examine the current business climate and determine what the future needs are for local businesses, as well as how the municipality can achieve this growth. So our end goal was the creation of a local business retention and expansion survey, as well as an updated business directory.
So our project can be broken down into 4 main phases. The research and stakeholder interviews were to get some background information on Middlesex Center and their local business climate. Then we began building the business directory, which involved various sources in order to obtain up-to-date emails to contact all of the businesses. Once that information was gathered from the stakeholders, the team then began to create a survey to address the specific gaps in knowledge to allow for the business expansion in the future. And finally, all information was gathered and put into a report, most of which will be explained today.
So to kick off our research phase, we interviewed key stakeholders provided by Michael, who are area experts and executives within the different communities of Middlesex Center. These individuals included Heather Keprin, Mayor DeVee, Todd Copeland, Dakota Soares, and finally Cara Finn. Each interview was approximately 30 minutes to 2 hours, and this was critical as the stakeholders were our main source of information to gather frontline insight on current business developments, the current relationship between the local business community and the municipality, and their overall thoughts on what to include in our survey. And from our interviews, we gathered 4 key points. The first one being that there was an ongoing risk of survey fatigue, and this was because the communities had actually already completed 2 surveys prior to ours. Second was that each community was at different stages of business development. The third being that there was a lack of relationship between Middlesex Center and the business associations, which should be strengthened. And the fourth one was that Middlesex Center actually just completed the strategic plan for 2021 to 2026.
So we created our business directory in order to keep a succinct log of the businesses and their contact information. While creating the directory, we used many different sources, including websites from the stakeholders, and in some cases, we contacted the business owners through their personal webpage in order to obtain as many local business emails as possible. When making the directory, we also categorized the businesses to keep track of the representation from each sector. The target was to gather as many local businesses from as many different sectors as possible. We completed extensive research and found that some businesses had closed or did not have an email, which was the reasoning for the color coding that can be seen. And since the survey asked for the name of the business, we could then cross-reference the responses with a directory. So we were able to keep track of which businesses had completed the survey and when.
And so to create and distribute the survey, we used SurveyMonkey, which was an amazing tool that facilitated both the survey creation and analysis. The survey consisted of 16 questions that were formed off the basis of the 6 questions that you can see on the slide. And our goal was to reach a response rate of 25%. And to achieve this, we sent out 2 reminder emails over the 2-week survey period, once at the middle of the survey and once the day before closing. This was again in order to push respondents to fill out our survey. And our project sponsor, Michael, also helped mitigate the risk of not achieving our target response rate by sending and signing off on an introductory email prior to sending our survey so that the business community was aware of the efforts that were being made by us students.
So we received a total of 37 responses with an 89% survey completion rate and overall 31% response rate, succeeding past our original target response of 25%. So now onto our major deliverable, which was the Middlesex Center Local Businesses Survey Report of 2021.
And out of those 37 responses, we got 11 from Ilderton, 1 from Lobo, 16 from Kamoka-Kilworth, 2 from Arva, and 3 from Delaware. And we can see that the majority of the survey responses were from Kamoka-Kilworth, which was one of the lesser developed communities in Middlesex Center in comparison to Ilderton. This reflected back on what we learned from our stakeholders. And it is important to note that we also received 3 responses from neighboring municipalities and communities that were outside of Middlesex Center. However, we did let Michael know about this, and he reassured us that since the business climate in Middlesex County as a whole is so similar, that keeping in these 3 responses would not affect our overall analyses and recommendations.
The survey results showed that there was a lot of variation in the respondents in terms of the type of businesses they were coming from. So as you can see, we found a very diverse industry representation, which is exactly what we had aimed for.
So the results of our survey gave us a clear idea of the business climate with the local business community, but then here are some screenshots. So the businesses have a smaller staff, are not being able to work from home, but are long lasting, and majority have had their business in Middlesex Center for over 10 years. Businesses were asked if tourism would aid them, and 59% said no. However, an important consideration is the industry representation that Kathy presented. Tourism aid is not applicable to all businesses, and this was included as a disclaimer in our report. From a marketing perspective, Facebook is the primary social media platform. And lastly, financially, local businesses majorly utilize loans for COVID-19 relief. Based on the survey results, the team created these top 6 recommendations for Middlesex Center. The first is to listen to the direct feedback that was given by the business community, as well as refresh municipal financial services in relation to their community improvement plan.
We then recommended Middlesex Center create a direct line of communication between the municipality and the local businesses, in addition to establishing marketing aids for the businesses to advertise their services.
Some specific responses we received were the suggestion to encourage young entrepreneurship within the municipality. And lastly, there seemed to be a strong request for some sort of intervention with the telecommunication providers in order to have stronger internet throughout Middlesex Center.
We also wanted to ensure that we include recommendations for further survey conduction. So as we have in-person marketing, flyer handout techniques, additional outreach, extended survey time period, allowing for extra time for respondents, so maybe an additional week, and the continual update of the established business directory for easier survey conduction in the future.
To end off, we'd like to thank Michael for partnering with the MMASC program and providing the project team with such an excellent opportunity to establish this partnership with Middlesex Center on such a meaningful CEL project. Also, thank you all for listening today, and we will now open the floor to any questions.
Thank you. There we go. I'll look to councillors for questions of the on the presentation. Deputy Mayor Brennan.
And through you, Madam Mayor, first of all, to Michael and yourself and all everybody that did the interviews, and to the ladies, you did a fantastic job here. If you had to say what was the one item that would best improve businesses in our municipality, or how we could attract more, what would that be?
If I were to take a guess, and it might not be the answer you want to hear, there did seem like a strong need for stronger internet throughout Middlesex Center, especially as everyone has shifted to an online and virtual environment, especially with their marketing tactics. That did seem to be a slight problem that a lot of the business owners faced.
Yeah, I think that goes unsaid, that the internet is a high priority with the kids out of school and learning from home and everything. So we're aware of that. And is there anything that you ladies saw that we as a municipality need to do to help maintain the businesses we have, or encourage more to come here?
I can take that question. I definitely believe that to keep your relationship with the local businesses, it would be highly beneficial to create more of a direct line of communication between the municipality and the local businesses. As in addition, we did mention that the relationship between Middlesex Center and the business associations isn't that strong. So perhaps strengthen that relationship with the business associations in addition to providing that direct line of communication.
Thank you.
Other questions? I'll jump in on that last point. I don't know if you want to continue with your response, Kathy. When you talk about the Ilderton Business Association, the Camoco-Kilworth Business Association, do you think there's any benefit to having one across the municipality, or is it best to have separate organizations? Or did you get any insight or comment or idea about that kind of thing?
We didn't get any comment in terms of the Camoco-Kilworth Business Association. However, speaking with the Ilderton one, I do think it'd be beneficial to kind of group all of the major communities within Middlesex Center into perhaps one giant local business association. I feel having more voices together, more opinions together would be very beneficial, as well as just having more opinions and ideas for new development.
Great, thank you for that. Oh, sorry.
I could just add on to that. We did also get our responses, like we were able to see which ones were coming from Camoco-Kilworth versus Ilderton. And it did seem like the climates were fairly similar in terms of the responses that we received. So then, as Kathy said, like bringing them together, I feel like there would be a fair bit in common with the business.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Well, I don't see any hands, so I'm going to take a moment to say thank you very much. I'm happy to see that you got an awesome response rate, and that helped you get your work done, give you some data to work with. So I really appreciate the effort, and it was wonderful to meet you and work with you as well. I'll take this opportunity to wish you well as you move on to your next projects, and who knows, maybe we'll see you in some kind of consulting role in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you again, all.
Yep. Good night. And I think we're ready to start then. Yeah. We are ready to start. Okay, so I'm going to ask that council adjourn. We have a motion now. I'm going to ask that council accept this motion, that council adjourn the regular meeting in order to sit as a committee of adjustment under section 45 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, to consider the minor variance applications listed in our agenda for April 2021. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Cates and Councillor Scott. Any opposed? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Just before we begin, I'm going to run through the procedure quickly. The members of the public that are participating virtually in this evening's public meeting have previously provided notification to the municipal clerk in advance of this meeting. If anyone wishes to receive further notification of any of the minor variance applications being considered tonight, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcenter.on.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that the comments expressed and the written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. If you have any questions on any of the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. So the order of proceedings is the same for each application, and it is as follows. First, the chair myself, that is, will ask the planner to explain the purpose of the application and hearing and to present a staff report. Then the municipal clerk will provide any additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in the planning report. Then we'll have the applicant or their agent speak to the application. The public will, who has registered to participate in the meeting, will be then asked for their comments and questions. Please ensure that you state your name and address so that comments can be reflected in the minutes. Then ask the committee for questions of the applicant and or staff. And then finally, we'll consider motions on those applications. So the first item up tonight is an application for minor variance, file number A5 2021. And Dan Fitzgerald, our planner, will give an overview of the planning report. There he is. Hello, Dan.
Through the chair, thanks everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight. So the purpose of application A5 2021 is an application for minor variance, and they are seeking relief from the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw as it does relate to the minimum interior side yard and rear yard setbacks required in the urban residential first density exception UR1-4 zone. The applicant is requesting an interior side yard setback of 0.9 meters on the northeast interior side yard and a rear yard setback of 0.6 meters for an accessory building, whereas Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw does require a minimum interior side yard and rear yard setback of 1.5 meters for accessory buildings. And they're also requesting to permit a maximum size of an accessory building of 32 square meters, whereas based on the provisions in the zoning bylaw, they would be maxed out at 30.25 square meters. So the effect of the proposal is, again, to facilitate the construction and replacement of an existing accessory building on the lands. Just before I go any further, I will share my screen. So everyone can see the location map there. So the subject property is located at 106 St. Lawrence Ave in Kamoka. It's approximately 0.25 acres in area with a frontage of 18.4 meters. And is located in the Kamoka Kilworth settlement area on the south side of St. Lawrence Ave, west of the intersection at St. Lawrence Ave and Delaware Street Central. The lands currently contain a single detached dwelling as well as an existing accessory building that is located in the current location as proposed by the applicant. The lands are bounded by residential lands in the format of single detached dwellings to the north, south, and west, and an institutional use abutting to the east. The lands are designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and are zoned, as noted, urban residential first density, exception UR1-4 in Middlesex Center's zoning bylaw. So no comments have been received as part of the public consultation for the application. And we also received no objections from agencies or internal departments. So staff did note in the report that the intent of the applicant is to replace the existing accessory structure within the same interior side and rear yard setbacks as they currently exist, while also increasing the size of the structure slightly beyond the current permissions. As identified in the planning report, I am of the opinion that the proposal meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. As it is minor in nature, it is consistent with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and it is considered appropriate development for the site. Given the above, I am recommending that the application be approved. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. I understand that the applicant is present. Oh, there you are. Hello, Derek. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
That's no. I did have a thought that I wanted to put together, but I've been in isolation for the past 10 days in my basement. So I glad I just made it upright is to hear the meeting. As long as there's no opposition from the neighbors and they're all happy with the plans, I showed most of them my drawings and they didn't seem to have any concerns with it. I just want to be an open book with the neighbors and such. So as long as they're all happy and the county's happy, hopefully we can move forward.
Okay, thank you. There are no additional comments. I'll ask the committee, are there any questions? Councillor Shipley.
Through the mayor to Dan or Derek, the existing shed, just for clarification, is it staying or going, or is a new shed being attached to it?
Through the chair. So the existing shed that is on the land right now, as discussed with the applicant, is being removed and replaced with a new structure. So the request for the additional increase in size is based on the fact that the structure that they want to replace the original with will be slightly larger than the existing one.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dan.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Cates.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Derek or Dan, I'm just curious, is it a garage or is it a shed, like for storage?
Through the chair, maybe I'll let Derek answer that one.
I would consider it a shed. It's mostly because I have a kayak addiction. I have 6 kayaks, and I'm running out of room, and the neighbors are starting to not want to store them any longer. Plus, it's kind of a thought process of when I retire, someplace to woodwork and all that stuff. So it's just I'm looking forward to further on in life and getting it done now. But I would call it just a larger shed.
Just curious.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any hands. So the motion before us is that the minor variance application filed by Derek and Amy Rain for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish an interior side yard setback of 0.9 meters on the northeast interior side yard and rear yard setback of 0.6 meters for an accessory building, whereas the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard and rear yard setback for an accessory building of 1.5 meters, and to permit a maximum size of 32 square meters for the accessory building, whereas the comprehensive zoning bylaw permits a maximum size of the lesser of 50.0 meters squared of a gross floor area or 3% lot coverage for a property legally described as Lot 16, Block A, Plan 66 in the Middlesex Municipality of Middlesex Centre, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 106 St. Lawrence Ave be granted, and that the reasons for granting the variance application are that the request complies with the general intended purpose of the Middlesex Centre official plan, as well as the comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature. The request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Cates and Councillor Arts. Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. And that is everything. Thank you, Derek, for coming. And we can move on to the next item. Good night. 8.2, minor variance A6 2021. And I'll ask Dan to present his report, please.
Through the chair to members of the committee. So the purpose and effect of application for minor variance A6 2021 is to seek relief from the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw as it does relate to the minimum exterior side yard setback in the community residential first density zone, so the CR1 zone. The applicant is requesting a minimum exterior side yard setback of 5 meters, whereas the bylaw currently requires an 8-meter setback on the exterior side yard. So the effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction of a new single detached dwelling on a vacant parcel. So the subject property as shown here is a 0.4 acre vacant lot that is located in Delaware on the west side of Martin Road, on the southwest corner of the intersection at Martin Road and Harris Road. It is surrounded by low-density residential lands on all sides. They are designated settlement area in the Middlesex County Official Plan, residential in the Middlesex Center Official Plan, and zoned community residential first density, holding CR1-4- H-4 in the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw. And just as a point of clarification, I believe the holding symbol was recently removed, so I think it's just now zoned CR1. The land in question has a frontage of approximately 26.5 meters, and as noted, is currently vacant. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application, and no agencies or departments had any objections. So as noted in the report, the applicant is requesting a minor variance to permit the reduction of the exterior side yard to 5 meters, whereas 8 meters is required for the frontage that's facing Harris Road, with the purpose of accommodating the desired construction of a 2-story single detached dwelling on the lands. So as a note to the committee, the site plan that was included in the application is an earlier version of the plan and shows an access to Martin Road as well as Harris Road. However, the applicant has since revised their proposal to only include one access to the lands, which is exclusively located on Martin Road. In review of the request, and as noted in the report, I am of the opinion that the proposal meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act for a minor variance, as the proposal is consistent with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, is appropriate, and is considered minor in nature. So primarily, the applicant has provided proof that a reduction to the exterior side yard would not negatively impact the required site visibility triangle at the intersection of Harris and Martin Road. And given the above, I am recommending that the application be approved, subject to the condition that any access or future access proposed along Harris Road would be required to meet the minimum 6-meter exterior side yard setback. And that's simply not allow vehicles to back up into the road right of way. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions.
Thank you. I understand the applicant, Michelle Dornbusch, there you are. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. I have no concerns. I've reviewed the staff report. Everything looks fine.
Okay, thank you. There are no additional members who have requested to participate or comments received by the clerk. I'll ask, does the committee have any questions? Councillor Arts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think this would be to Michelle. I looked at the blueprints and I took the width of the house, and then I took the side setbacks, and there's almost 4 extra feet kicking around now. That maybe the original blueprints had a wider house, so I was wondering that 5 meters could actually be 6, but I'm just saying there's 4 spare feet now.
Through the chair, those plans were not final, so the additional space will be added into the house between the garage and the front door, and it will utilize the wider footprint that can be accommodated based on this variance.
Oh, and one more question.
Yep, go ahead.
I've got no issues as long as the final blueprint, the garage stays on the left side of the house, because if the garage moves to the other side of the house, you're like Dan said, you're going to start impeding the line of sight at the intersection. Thank you.
Through the chair, the garage will be staying on the left-hand side of the property.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? I don't see any. No. So the motion before us is that minor variance application A6-2021 filed by Brock Development Group Incorporated for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish an exterior side yard setback of 5 meters on the side abutting the road and 1.5 meters on the other side. Whereas Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw requires the minimum exterior side yard of 8 meters on one side and 1.5 meters on the other side for a property legally described as Lot 12, Registered Plan 33 M796 in the municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 217 Martin Road, be granted subject to the following conditions. and that the future access considered off Harris Road shall require a minimum exterior yard setback of 6 meters. And further that the reasons for granting the minor variance application are that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan and with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and the request represents an appropriate development on the subject property. Is there a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Shipley, Councillor Scott, any opposed? I see none. That motion is carried and that's done then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night. Moving on to minor variance file A7 2021. Again, Dan, this is your file.
Through the chair, yes. So thank you, members of the committee. The purpose and effect of application for minor variance A7 2021 is to seek relief from the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw as it does relate to the minimum rear yard setback and maximum overall lot coverage in the urban residential first density zone. The applicant is requesting a minimum rear yard setback for a covered deck of 5.55 meters, whereas the minimum rear yard setback of 8 meters is required for a single detached dwelling in the zone. Additionally, the applicant is requesting a maximum permissible lot coverage of 36%, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum lot coverage of 35%. The effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction of a new single detached dwelling with an attached covered deck on a vacant parcel of land. So if everyone can see that there, the subject property is a 0.25 acre vacant land or vacant lot, that is located on the south side of Edgewater Boulevard in the Southwood subdivision, which is located in Kilworth, west of the Thames River. The lands are surrounded by residentially zoned lands in the form of single detached dwellings to the north, east, as well as west, and protected forest land or environmentally sensitive areas to the south. The lands do consist of a vacant lot, which is again located in a new subdivision. The property is designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and again is zoned urban residential first density or UR1 zone in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. We did not receive any comments during the public circulation and did not receive any objections from any agencies or internal departments. So as noted in the report, the applicant is requesting a minor variance to permit the construction of a reduced rear yard setback for a covered deck, which is attached to the main dwelling at the rear of the property. So based on the size of the rear yard, the applicant is requesting a minor variance to reduce the rear yard setback by 2.45 meters for the deck, while also requesting the increase of maximum lot coverage to 36%. So in this case, an increase of 1%. Staff note that the intent of the applicant is to construct a single detached dwelling on a vacant parcel. And in review of the request, planning staff do note that a reduction to the rear yard setback and lot coverage would not negatively impact adjacent property owners and also would not impact any abutting landowners to the rear, as the lot does back onto a protected natural environment. So as identified in the planning report, I am of the opinion that the proposal meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act for a minor variance, as the proposal is consistent with the general intent of the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw, is appropriate, and is considered minor in nature. So given the above, I am recommending that the application be approved, subject to the condition that the reduction to the rear yard setback only apply to the rear covered deck and not any habitable portion of the main dwelling. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions.
Thank you for the report, Dan. Chris Melchers is the applicant, and he's registered to speak to the application. We also have the owner, Nellie Bambello, present to answer questions as needed. Chris, would you like to make some comments?
I think that Dan described it well. Unless anybody has any questions, I don't really have anything further to add.
Okay, I'll look to council then. Are there any questions on this file? I don't see any hands. So the motion before us is that minor variance application A7-2021 filed by Chris Melchers on behalf of Nellie Van Bello and Ray Wallet for the relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a minimum rear yard setback for an attached covered deck of 5.55 meters, whereas the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 8 meters and to establish a maximum permissible lot coverage of 36%, whereas the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a maximum lot coverage of 35% for a property legally described as Lot 82, Plan 33M 746 in the municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 240 Edgewater Boulevard be granted, subject to the following conditions: that the minimum rear yard setback shall be reduced to 5.55 meters, shall only apply to the deck as shown on the attached drawing, and the remainder of the single detached dwelling shall maintain a minimum 8-meter setback as shown on the conceptual site plan. And further, that the reasons for granting the minor variance application are that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan, complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw, and that the request is minor in nature and represents appropriate development on the subject property. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Heffernan, is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yep, good night. Thank you. Moving on to 8.4, file number 8, 2021. If you'd like to give your report, Dan.
Thank you, members of the committee. The purpose and effect of the application for minor variance A8/2021 is to seek relief from the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw as it does relate to the minimum interior side yard setback and location of a pool in the agricultural A1 zone. The applicant is requesting an interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters on one side, whereas the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw does require a minimum interior side yard setback of 3 meters on both sides. And they are also requesting to permit a pool in the front / exterior side yard, whereas pools are only permitted in the interior side yards or rear yards on properties. So the effect of this proposal is to facilitate the construction of an addition to the existing single detached dwelling, as well as a pool for the lands. I'll put the location map up there so everyone can see it. The subject property is a 0.92 acre undersized agricultural lot that is located on the west side of Nairn Road, more specifically on the northwest corner of the intersection at Nairn Road and Greystead Drive. The lands are surrounded on all sides by agricultural lands, which generally are in crop production. The property is designated agricultural area in the Middlesex County official plan, agricultural in the Middlesex Center official plan, and is zoned agricultural A1 zone in the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application. I did receive comment from the county engineer who expressed concern regarding the pool being located in the exterior side yard and its potential conflict with traffic. So as such, I have included a condition that does require that the pool meet the minimum required exterior side yard setbacks at abut Nairn Road. So in this case, Nairn as the county road. So as noted in the report, the applicants have requested a minor variance respecting the addition is generally to match the existing setback condition of the house that is currently located on the lands. Additionally, given that the location of the existing home, the applicant is also seeking a variance to place a pool in the front yard. In review of this request, planning staff note that the reduction to the interior side yard setback generally is not considered to negatively impact adjacent property owners, as it would match the existing setback or condition of the lands that are currently in play. Additionally, the location of the pool in the front yard would still be required to meet the minimum setback, and as such does not cause a safety concern for vehicular traffic. As identified in the planning report, I am of the opinion the proposal meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act for a minor variance, as the proposal is consistent with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, is appropriate and desirable, and is considered minor in nature. So given the above, I am recommending that the application be approved, again, subject to the condition that the pool be required to meet the minimum exterior side yard setback as identified in the zone. So thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. The applicants, Morgan Hall and Richie Anand, are registered to speak to this application. I'll just ask, is there anything you want to add or clarify at this time?
No, I don't think we have anything to add. Thank you for the report and for all your help.
Okay. There are no members of the public who've requested to participate, and there have been no comments received by the clerk. I'll turn to the committee then. Are there questions of the applicant or the planner? I don't see any hands. So there's the motion before us, that minor variance application A8-2021 filed by Morgan Hall and Richie Anand for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish an interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters on one side, whereas the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 3 meters on both interior side yards, and to permit a pool in the front yard, whereas pools are only permitted in an interior side yard or rear side yard for a property legally described as part of Lot 12, Concession 12S, Municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 25235 Nairn Road, be granted subject to the following condition: and that the pool be required to meet the minimum exterior side yard setback as established in the zoning bylaw, and further that the reasons for granting the minor variance application A8-2021, that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan, that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw, the request is minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Arts and Councillor Cates, all in, any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Congratulations, enjoy your pool. And I'll look to Dan for the next item, which is file A9-2021.
Sure, thank you again, members of the committee. The purpose and effect of the application for minor variance, in this case, A9-2021, is to seek relief from the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw as it relates to the minimum distance separation, or MDS2 setback, for a livestock barn in the agricultural A1 zone. The applicant is requesting to reduce the interior side yard setback of 9.1 meters, whereas the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw does require a minimum of 19 meters, and also a reduction to the front yard setback to 179.8 meters, whereas the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw, based on MDS calculations, would require a minimum of 186 meters. So the effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction of a new livestock barn for dairy cattle. So hopefully everyone can see that there. So this particular subject property is a 35.2 hectare or 87 acre agricultural parcel that is on the north side of Medway Road, west of the intersection at Medway and Wonderland Road North. The lands are surrounded on all sides by agricultural lands that are currently in crop production. The property is designated agricultural in the Middlesex County official plan, agricultural in Middlesex Center's official plan, and as noted, zoned agricultural A1 zone in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. The applicant in this case is seeking permission to reduce the minimum required MDS2 setback related to a neighboring house to construct a 2,787 square meter dairy barn Staff note that the minor variance request is only specific to the barn and not the manure storage, as the manure area does meet minimum required setback distance as established by MDS 2. The applicant has noted that they are requesting the reduction due to the existing topography of the lands, as well as achieving efficiencies on the agricultural lands. Comments were received from the public during circulation of, no comments were received from the public during circulation of the application. And no agencies or internal departments did express any concerns. I will note that prior to tonight's meeting, we did receive correspondence that an applicant, a neighboring property owner has submitted an objection to the minor variance. However, after speaking with their planner for the file, they have rescinded their objection. As noted in the report, the applicant's request for minor variance is only specifically related to the dairy barn. Generally, OMAFRA guidelines discourage reductions to MDS setbacks to reduce potential odor conflicts with neighboring properties. However, as identified in the planning report, there are instances that are noted where a minor variance could be considered appropriate. So achieving the land use efficiencies, avoiding natural hazard areas, and topographical challenges are identified as reasonable considerations for a variance. As identified in the planning report, I am of the opinion that the proposal does meet the four tests of the Planning Act in consideration of the OMAFRA guidelines. As the proposal is generally consistent with the official plan and zoning bylaw, is appropriate and desirable, and is also considered minor in nature. Given the above, I am recommending that the application be approved, as I do not anticipate any negative impact to abutting property owners. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer questions.
Well, thank you for that presentation. I'll note that Mike Brennan is on the line. Is there? Oh, there you are. Would you like to speak to the application at all?
I'd like to start off, Mr. Mayor, by thanking Dan and Arnie. This is my first time through this, and I've had a lot of questions. But they were just a phone call away. Dan and Arnie both are extremely knowledgeable, and they made the process easy. I'd like to thank the mayor and council, the ones I spoke to on the phone, the ones who made it out to actually see the site. It looks a little different when you're standing out in the middle of a field compared to looking at it on a map. So I thank you for your time and your efforts. As Dan said, the MDS does speculate quite a bit on odor. So in order from the side yard setback, we've actually opted to switch the barn and move the cows and the manure storage in the barn to the east end of the barn to keep it as far from the west fence line as possible. And also, just to clarify, we own the neighboring farm to the west. It's just in a numbered company name. To keep the land parcel separate. Other than that, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the input. No additional members of the public have requested to participate, and the comments piece has already been clarified. I'll turn to the committee then. Are there any questions? I see no hands and shaking heads, so I think we're ready for the motion, which is that minor variance application A-9 2021 filed by Mike Brennan on behalf of John and Ted Brennan for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a reduced interior side setback of 9.1 meters, whereas the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw based on MDS calculations would require a minimum of 19 meters and reduce a front yard setback to 179.8 meters, whereas the comprehensive zoning bylaw based on MDS calculations would require a minimum of 186 meters for property legally described as part lots 22 and 23, concession 7 south on the reference plans in the municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 13570 Medway Road be granted. And that the reasons for granting the minor variance application A-9 2021, the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan and complies with the general intent and purpose of the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Shipley and Councillor Cates. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Happy building, and we'll look forward to seeing a new barn on your road. Thank you. Now, number 8.6, which is file number A10 2021. And over to you again, Dan.
Thank you through the chair and members of the committee. Application for minor variance A10/2021 is a minor variance that is seeking relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw as it relates to the installation of a swimming pool in the exterior side yard, being closer to the exterior lot line than the single detached dwelling on the land. Whereas Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw does require that pools be located in the interior side yard or in the rear yards. The effect of this proposal is to facilitate, again, the construction of a swimming pool as a residential accessory use. Hopefully everyone can see that. The subject property is a 2.29 acre undersized agricultural lot that is located on the west side of Nairn Road, and more specifically on the west side of Woodhall Road, on the northwest corner of the intersection at Woodhall and Longwoods Road, and is municipally known as 3657 Woodhall Road. The lands are bounded by agricultural / residential uses to the north and west, residential homes in the format of single detached dwellings to the east, and industrial lands across the road to the south. Existing development of the lands contains a single attached dwelling, which fronts onto Woodhall Road, and a detached accessory building on the northwest side of the property. Additionally, the property contains a mature tree line along the exterior side yard, as well as front yard. The property is designated agricultural area in Middlesex County official plan, agricultural in Middlesex Center's official plan, and agricultural exception A1-11 zone in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. No comments were received from the public during circulation of the application. Additionally, the county engineer did note that they were satisfied that sufficient space exists to meet the minimum setback requirements, and noted that they did have no concerns. So as stated in the report, the applicant is requesting minor variance for permission to place a pool in the exterior side yard. Generally, pools are preferred to be located within rear or interior side yards of properties to reduce any potential safety and access concerns, and also to provide privacy. However, in this instance, the location of the home and the lot, existence of an accessory building in the interior side yard, and location of a septic bed in the other alternative interior side yard, the applicant is essentially left with no other choice. The location of the pool in the exterior side yard would be capable of meeting the minimum required setbacks and would be screened behind the existing trees. As identified in the planning report, I am of the opinion that the proposal does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act for a minor variance, as the proposal is consistent with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, is appropriate for or appropriate use of the land as an accessory to a residential use, and is considered minor in nature. So given the above, I am recommending that the application be approved, subject to the condition that the pool be located generally in the same position as depicted on the plans. So thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Dan. I see Mr. Manuel's there. Would you like to add anything to the presentation or comment?
Hi, good evening, everybody, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Thanks a lot, Dan, for well-presented application here. So due to the septic tank being in the rear of the house, that's what the application is about, moving the pool to the front. Well said by Dan, and thank you. For any other questions, we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. No members of the public have requested to participate, and no comments have been received by the clerk. So I'll look to the committee. Is there anything at all? I don't see any hands. So the motion before us is that minor variance application A10 2021 filed by Mike Manuel on behalf of Anna Perzia for relief from the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw in order to permit the installation of a swimming pool in the exterior side yard, being closer to the exterior lot line than the single detached dwelling on the land, as generally shown on the illustration, submitted in support of the proposal. For a property legally described as Lot 6, Concession 3, in the municipality of Middlesex Center, County of Middlesex, and municipally known as 3657 Woodhull Road, be granted, subject to the following condition. That the swimming pool be constructed in the same general location as specified in the application submission, and that the reasons for granting the minor variance application include the request complies with the general intent and purpose of the Middlesex Center official plan, complies with the general intent and purpose of the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw. The request is minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Is there a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates and Councillor Heffernan. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is granted then, and I'll say enjoy your pool as well. Thank you. All right, 8.7, file 8A 24-2020. And Dan, you can take that away then.
Thank you, members of the committee. Again, the purpose and effect of the application for minor variance A-24/2020 is to seek relief from the Middlesex Center Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw as it relates to the minimum front yard and rear yard setback requirements of the highway commercial zone. The applicant is requesting a minimum front yard setback of 4.36 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum front yard setback of 10 meters. They're also requesting to reduce the minimum rear yard setback requirement to 2.78 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 10 meters. The effect of the proposal is to facilitate the construction of 2 new commercial units that will front onto Glendon Drive. So for context, I hope everyone can see that. The subject property is located on the west side of Jeffreys Road, more specifically on the southwest corner of the intersection at Jeffreys Road and Glendon Drive in Kilworth, and is municipally addressed 22499 Jeffreys Road. It has frontage of approximately 99 meters along Jeffreys Road and an area of approximately 1.4 hectares in total. Additionally, the property fronts onto Glendon Drive and does contain 2 existing commercial buildings and associated parking areas. It is surrounded by commercially zoned lands to the east, south, and west, and agricultural Glendon Drive. The property is designated settlement area in the county official plan and is designated settlement commercial in the Middlesex Center official plan. And as a note, is also located within special policy area 2 and is also identified as a community gateway. Additionally, the lands are zoned highway commercial exception C2-11 in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. So as identified in the planning report, the applicant is proposing to construct 2 new commercial buildings on an underutilized portion of land, which is currently subject to site plan review. The request to reduce the front yard and rear yard setbacks is to push buildings out towards the street in order to internalize parking areas as contemplated in the official plan gateway commercial policies. One comment was received from the public in circulation of the application, which did seek clarification on future road improvements. Concerns were raised that reducing setbacks on the corner of Jeffreys and Glendon may impact the design and construction of future intersection design. However, after discussion with Public Works Public Works and Engineering, as well as the county engineer, it was determined that the design of the intersection does not impact this particular site. So as such, the individual was or dropped their concern, I guess, and no other comments or objections were received. So staff have reviewed the proposed minor variance based on the use of the lands, official plan designation, as well as the existing zoning standards. The proposal was also reviewed against the 4 Planning Act tests. As provided in the planning report, staff are satisfied that the requested minor variance is considered minor in nature, is appropriate and desirable, and does meet the intent of the official plan as well as the zoning bylaw. So therefore, planning staff are recommending that minor variance A24/2020 be approved. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions you may have.
All righty, and I saw that Mr. Henneman was here to speak to the file. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, Madam Mayor. I'd say that we've carefully reviewed staff's report, and we welcome the recommendation for approval. We would respectfully request that the committee follows that recommendation and grants the 2 variances. I'd be happy to answer any questions there may be.
Thank you. No additional members of the public have requested to participate, and no comments have been received by the clerk. I will look to the committee then for questions or clarifications. I don't see any hands. So the motion before us is that minor variance application A-24/2020 filed by Zelinka Priamo, care of David Henneman, on behalf of Kilworth Business Park for relief from the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaws minimum front yard setback of 4.36 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum front yard setback of 10 meters, and to reduce the minimum rear yard setback to 2.78 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 10 meters. For a lot legally described as Block 1 on Plan M324, municipally known as 22499 Jeffreys Road, be granted. And that the reasons for granting the minor variance include the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Centre's official plan, the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Centre's comprehensive zoning bylaw, the request is minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Is there a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates and Councillor Arts, is anyone opposed? I don't see any. That is granted then. Thank you for your presentations and time.
Thank you.
That's the last Committee of Adjustment item. So we can now move to public meetings. The motion before us is the Committee of Adjustment reconvene as council to move into planning public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act 1990 as amended, to consider the planning applications listed on the April 28th, 21 agenda. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Arts and, Councillor Scott and Councillor Cates. And any opposed? And seeing none, then I'm just going to review the opening remarks for the members who are participating. So members of the public that are participating virtually in this evening's public meetings have previously provided notification to the municipal clerk in advance of this meeting. If anyone wishes to receive further notification on any of the applications being considered tonight, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcentre.on.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed in written material presented are a matter of public record. If you have any questions on the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on the file. Those who have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and to uphold values of cooperation, trust, and openness. The order of proceedings is again the same for each application and is as follows. I will ask the planner to explain the purpose of the application and hearing and to present the staff report. The clerk will then provide additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in the planning report. The applicant or their agent has the opportunity to speak to their application. The public will be asked for their comments and questions. Please ensure that you state your name and address so that comments can be reflected in the minutes. And then the committee will ask questions of the applicant and or staff, and I will then ask for motions regarding those applications. So moving to our first item, is an application for zoning bylaw amendment for 1010-7 Alveage Drive, filed by Ryan Parker, and 2375430 Ontario Limited. I'm going to ask Marion to present the overview of the planning report. Hi, go ahead, please, Marion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So the municipality received an application for a zoning bylaw amendment on the lands known as 10107 Alveage Road. The applicant has requested the temporary use zone for 3 years in order to construct a new dwelling while keeping the existing dwelling on the lands. And I'll quickly pull up a location map for you. Okay, so the lands are located on the southwest corner of Alveage Drive and Brigham Road. The lands are approximately 28 acres in area and contain a single detached dwelling, which is located on the western portion of the lands, and sheds and barns that are located closer to the intersection on the eastern half of that land. So the applicant, again, is requesting to construct a new dwelling to replace their existing one. Once the new dwelling is built, or at the end of the 3-year period, whichever comes first, the existing dwelling will be removed from the property. The requested application is generally consistent with the policies of the PPS, County Official Plan, and Middlesex Center Official Plan as it relates to permitting a farm-related dwelling. The application was also circulated to area residents, agencies, and staff for comment. At the time of writing this report, staff did not receive any comments from any area residents. However, staff did speak to an area resident earlier this week who just had general questions about this application, but did not have any objections or any concerns about it. Additionally, as a result of the regulated area that's on the property, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority reviewed this rezoning application and has no concerns or objections. However, if the proposed dwelling unit is located within that regulated area, this may require a permit from the Conservation Authority before a building permit is issued. And lastly, municipal staff has no objections to this rezoning. However, Public Works and Engineering have requested that the applicant submit a deposit of $10,000 and enter into an agreement with the municipality to ensure removal of that existing residence once the new residence is built, and that requested that the draft of the agreement were provided to the applicant. So as a result of the above, planning staff have determined that the requested zoning bylaw amendment for a temporary use zone for a period of 3 years is consistent with all applicable policies, including the Middlesex Center Official Plan. Therefore, staff recommend that the application be approved and that the owner enter into a temporary use agreement with the municipality and submit a deposit of $10,000. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. And Mr. Ryan Parker is the applicant and has registered to speak to the application. Would you like to add any comments?
I want to thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors for listening to our application, and Marion did such a good job. I think I'll leave it at that, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll note that no members of the public have requested to participate and no additional comments have been received by the clerk. I'll turn to council then for questions. I don't see any hands. The motion before us is that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 07-2021 filed by Ryan Parker and 237-5430 Ontario Limited to permit 2 single detached dwellings on one property for up to 3 years to allow a new residence to be constructed on the land be approved, and that the owner be required to enter into a temporary use agreement with the municipality and submit a deposit of $10,000 to ensure the removal of the existing residence. Could I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates and Councillor Scott. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any hands, and that is approved then. Thank you very much. And we'll move now to application for consent B4 and B5 2021. And Dan is the planner on that one. So I'll look to see. Oh, there you are. Okay. Go ahead, Dan.
Through the chair, still here. Yeah, thank you. So the application, the purpose of the application for committee tonight is with respect to a property that's located at 21603 as well as 21599 Richmond Street in Arva. which is requesting a consent to establish a shared access easement. The effect is to accommodate the construction of a new proposed 2-story professional office building, which is currently subject to site plan review. So as you can kind of see there, the subject property, which as noted is 21599 and 21603 Richmond Street, have a combined frontage of approximately 50 meters and a combined area of approximately 0.19 hectares or 0.47 acres. And they do contain an existing professional office / commercial buildings, as well as the associated parking areas. It is surrounded by commercial zoned lands to the east and south, vacant undeveloped parcel used for agricultural purposes to the north, and as well as the west. Both properties currently maintain their own access to Richmond Street. So the lands are designated settlement area in the county official plan, village center by Middlesex Center's official plan, and are zoned village commercial or C1 zone in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. So as part of the concurrent site plan review application, the Ministry of Transportation has requested that the owner at 21603 Richmond Street close their existing access and consolidate it with the neighboring property that is located at 21599 Richmond Street. So in order to accommodate this request, the applicant has applied for consent to establish a shared access easement, which 21603 Richmond Street would be the beneficiary in this. So notice of this application was given in advance of today's public meeting in accordance with the Planning Act. So no comments were received from the public, as a note to everyone. Staff have reviewed the proposed consent for the shared access easement and are satisfied that it generally meets the intent of the provincial policy statement, county official plan, as well as the local official plan. And as such, planning staff do recommend that the consent applications be approved and to establish the shared access easement. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. We have Nelson Guyot and Judak Lee here to speak to, they're the applicants and speaking to the file. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think that Dan was explaining very well
all right.
The application. So we just leave it like that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. There have been no additional comments that, pardon me, and no additional members of the public who've requested to participate, and no comments received by the clerk. This motion goes on for quite some length. There are a number of conditions, 6 of them. So I will ask that the motion as printed, that we vote on the motion as printed and grant the application. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Scott. Is anyone opposed? I don't see any hands, so the motion is granted, and thank you for your time. Thank you for the presentation, Dan. Number 9.3 is an application for 311 George Street filed by Goldleaf Properties, and Marianne has got this report. There you are.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council again. The municipality received a zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands known as 311 George Street in Ilderton. The applicant has also submitted an associated site plan application for this development, which staff are reviewing concurrently. The application specifically requests to rezone the lands from existing use to a site-specific urban residential third density zone to accommodate 43 townhouse dwelling units and 2 semi-detached dwelling units. And I'll just pull up a location map for everyone to see. So the lands are located south of Ilderton Road and on the south side of George Street, west of King Street. The lands are approximately 4.8 acres in area and has 33 meters of frontage on George Street and some frontage onto Mossy Wood Walk to the south. The property currently contains a single detached dwelling and shop and is predominantly surrounded by residential lands to the north, south, west, and east, and commercial lands located along Ilderton Road exist to the north. So I will make a quick note about the site plan that you're seeing on the screen right now. The site plan that was circulated as part of the notice of public meeting has since been updated and is now the one that you're seeing on the screen is the current version. There are no significant changes to the proposed uses or the number of units. However, there were some smaller changes made to the to the setbacks, to the interior and rear lot lines. So looking at the proposal and what the rezoning would permit, the applicant is proposing one access from George Street, but none from Mossy Wood Walk, internal and private roads with 6 visitor parking spots, 43 townhouse units would front onto this private road, and 2 semi-detached dwellings with the same built form would front onto George Street. No communal amenity space is provided. However, each unit has private amenity space to the rear with a patio as well. 2 parking spaces are provided per unit, one in the driveway and then one in the garage. No sidewalks are proposed with this development. Additionally, there are a mailbox and auxiliary building located near the entrance of this development for residents to access. And finally, there are retaining walls that are proposed along the western property line and in some sections of the eastern and southern property line. And this is noted in the thicker lines in the site plan. So the applicant has also advised that units will be rented to seniors and provided some examples of their existing developments in the area, including some within the county. And this is to help the public and for council to envision what is proposed on the lands. I'll just switch to the slide here, which provides an example of what is existing in Strathroy in their Bear Creek developments. So you'll see that the townhouse dwelling units are a single story. There is some parking as well as in front of each dwelling as well as the garage. And then you see a standard cross section with a private roadway. And additionally, this is the rear of each dwelling unit. You'll see the covered patios as well as some of at grade, and no decks or any above grade additions are proposed in this area. And I will note at this time that zoning and planning tools in general cannot plan for people. However, we can control the built form and the uses on each property. So in general, the PPS County Official Plan and Middlesex Center Official Plan support infill development and a variety of housing types and tenures, especially where it is compatible with existing development in the area, and as well as the character of the neighborhood in the area. As part of the rezoning application to a new site-specific zone, the applicant requests the following standards to be included. Specifically, permitted uses only permit semi-detached dwelling units, townhouse dwelling units, and accessory units. Reduced minimum side yard setback from interior lot lines of 2.9 meters. A side yard setback from private streets at a minimum of 3.3 meters, and a setback between townhouse blocks of 5 meters. As well, a reduced minimum rear yard setback of 4.23 meters, an increased maximum lot coverage of 36.9%, and this includes the covered patio portion. And finally, all other standards within the urban residential third density zone apply. So this application was circulated to agencies as well as property owners within the area. At the time of writing this report, staff did not receive any comments from the public. However, staff have since received multiple letters and phone calls about this development. And I understand that some of the letters have been circulated to council. So I won't read each thoroughly, but I will provide a summary of the concerns. Specifically, area residents are concerned about the height. And I believe this is related to zoning standard, which signifies that there is a maximum height permitted of 20 meters. However, this can be reduced to reflect the single story development. There's also concern about the density and number of units proposed, as it should reflect lower density development found in Ilderton. There's also concerns about traffic, stormwater management and drainage, the intended use, and ensuring that residents get what they see. There's a preference for an older plan which proposed single detached dwellings, and this was the older plan of subdivision that was applied for in 2007. There's concerns about landscaping and the retention of existing trees and the treat area, as well as impact on existing infrastructure capacity, who would live in these units. There's concern about the lack of sidewalks and communal areas, as well as privacy, impact on the existing neighborhood, and concern about the quality of the development, the lack of the connection to Mossy Wood Walk, and as well construction traffic and construction in general, which would impact the existing neighborhood. Staff also reviewed the rezoning application and the site plan application and did provide comments related to the site plan directly to the proponent. Planning staff have also noted some concerns related to the lack of access to Mossy Wood Walk for general traffic as well as emergency services, and generally linking the community to the rest of the neighborhood and amenities in the area. And there's also concern about the lack of sidewalks within this development, as well as the lack of communal areas and the overall design that highlights a car-dominant development. This includes the provision of snout houses where the garage is located and protrudes in front of the house, and some of the landscaping treatments along the boulevard areas. So this report is for council tonight is for information purposes, as staff would like to initiate some discussion and solicit feedback from council and from public. As such, staff recommend that this report be received for information purposes, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. We have Cindy Reed and Anthony Gubbles, who are representing the applicant and have registered to speak for the to this application. And I see two Anthony's and Cindy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for your time, and thank you, Marion, for that presentation. I really appreciate all the work that has been put through to present this tonight. So I just wanted to kind of take a little bit and talk about the company and kind of our business model and what we do in terms of senior housing. So I did spend some time in the neighborhood yesterday and went around and talked to some of the neighbors and residents there, and just kind of tried to clear up some of the confusion that was swirling around with this development. As Marion mentioned in her report, what we are proposing is senior townhomes, so just a single story. There's no upstairs, there's no basement, there's actually no steps whatsoever in the unit at all, not even going from the garage into the unit, or as Marion mentioned, on the back deck or the back patio, because like we said, it is geared to seniors, the 55 plus community. And it is going to be luxury, high-end rentals. They're very, very nicely done. We do encourage anyone to take a drive through our two completed developments in Strathroy. The one is right next to Bear Creek Golf Course, and the other one is just down the road on Metcalfe Street East at 369 Metcalfe Street there. So absolutely go take a look, take a drive in, and then you can see, you'll notice how well keep the grounds. So that's the other thing that is beneficial and can help maybe put the neighbors' minds at ease, because when you do hear rentals, some people get their backs up against the wall and think, okay, well, people aren't going to maintain things as well as if it was ownership. But with them being rentals, then we maintain the property as a whole, which leads to a very consistent look. We take care of the grass cutting, we take care of the snow removal and everything. So it does foster to a nice cohesive look at all times. And like I said, our two developments in Strathroy that have been completed are always very, very, very well maintained. And we do upkeep them to a very high standard, because they are luxury rentals that are catering to a higher end clientele, where people are coming from downsizing from a farm or a bigger home, and they just don't want the upkeep anymore. They just want somewhere that they can come, have some space, that they have a covered porch on the front and a covered porch on the back, where they can enjoy their coffee, read the newspaper, and then also be in a community with people that are like them and in the same situation that they are. So I did pass out our information as a company. I did explain to everyone that, you know, we are a family company. I'm the second generation coming on. So I know people are worried that, you know, we're going to build this and then it's going to change down the road. And that certainly does not fit in with our business model. The intention is, that's what Gold Leaf Properties does, is we create and we maintain senior living. This will be our fifth development that we are currently doing. We have the 2 completed ones in Strathroy, and we have 2 under construction, 1 in Petrolia and 1 in Park Hill, because there is such a need for this. We have people call us from small towns literally every day and say, hey, is there any plans to build here? I want to live in my small town where I grew up, where my kids are. I want to be close to my kids and my grandkids. And this is what I want. I don't want to be in an apartment. I want something that I can have a garage and a backyard, and have my neighbors that have something in common with me. So that being said, and I think Anthony has probably a few more things to add to that in terms of the design and the layout, because he has been our engineering consultant on all of our projects. So he's very, very familiar with our company and with what we do.
Thank you, Cindy. Members of council. I trust you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, I just want everyone to be comforted to know that there's actually only one of me, although I am tied into the virtual meeting on my desktop that doesn't have a microphone, and my phone that it does have a microphone. So I'm using resources. So there's just one of me, be rest assured. I just want to also acknowledge Marion's assistance on this file. She's been very helpful in many respects. So thank you, Marion. A number of comments have been brought forward, and Marion touched on a number of them. And I just wanted to perhaps elaborate on some of them to hopefully put everyone's mind at ease with respect to some of the concerns that have been raised. There's been some concern about traffic impacts, and I'm not sure what happened. Perhaps there's a disconnect, but a traffic impact study was completed. I believe it was included in our application. For some reason, there's a disconnect here. So the long and the short of it is that there's references in the comments that have come forward about 90 cars traveling one way in the morning and then 90 cars coming home at night. And what we're actually seeing here in the traffic impact study actually identifies that there's just a fraction of that volume being realized in the morning, with 22 potential vehicle trips in the morning and 29 vehicle trips in the evening. And that's perhaps reflective of a multifamily, medium density multifamily type of a development. What we have here is a demographic that really doesn't enjoy doing a lot of driving. And the likelihood is that the number of vehicle trips in the morning and in the evening will be even less than the 22 and 29 identified in the traffic impact study. In terms of a secondary access or emergency access, the site plan has been designed in compliance with the municipality's design standards. There is only one access that is required for a development having the number of units that we have in this proposal, 45 units. So the concern of the area residents that there's not a second access, according to your standards, a second access is not required. In terms of our work on not only projects for Gold Leaf, but for other clients that are building a similar product, this is our 12th project of its kind that our office has been fortunate enough to be involved in over the course of the past few years. In total, these 12 projects have yielded in excess of 440 units in communities such as yours throughout southwestern Ontario. Those communities include Strathroy, Petrolia, Sarnia, Mount Bridges, Ilderton, obviously, Forest, and there's probably a couple more that I've likely missed. There's a common thread throughout all of our projects. They do not have sidewalks, as rightfully identified by some of the area residents. And there's little reliance on the automobile. These communities are private by their nature, given the demographic of the tenants, and as a result of community access for these tenants is a low priority. Rather, what we do see is a tremendous amount of interaction with neighbors across the street and across rear yards. There tends to be a fair amount of activity from patio to patio across rear yards and across the way on porches fronting their private street. We continue to receive feedback from our clients on these projects, and I can assure you that one thing we have never heard are complaints about the lack of community access and sidewalks. In fact, one client out of Sarnia who operates several care facilities in southwestern Ontario, in Windsor, Sarnia, and Waterloo, they specifically requested of their council to not include sidewalks in their projects. And the reason for that is the residents don't use them. There's not movement in and out using pedestrian connections. The pedestrian movement is from patio to patio, porch to porch. And one of the underlying reasons for not putting sidewalks in these projects is that given the demographic that we're catering to, or that our clients are catering to, sidewalks in fact pose a significant liability, particularly to this demographic who, if you have a slip and fall incident, it can be pretty catastrophic at that particular age. So we consistently have not provided, and in fact, councils in other jurisdictions have supported our clients' request to not include sidewalks in these projects. There's a number of other questions about, where are the children going to play? Well, and where the school bus is going to turn around. We're not catering to that demographic. We're looking at retirees, what we would refer to as go-go's. They're self-sufficient, they're active, they're independent. And when the time in their life comes where they have to rely upon external care, they move out of these types of units and move into appropriate type care facilities to address whatever health ailments or conditions that they're dealing with. I think those are probably the more significant points I wanted to convey. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to address them.
All right, thank you for that. So we are now going to move to the public piece. And just before we invite our first person to come on board, I'm going to just reiterate and remind the public of some of the ground rules. So we have a number of registered delegates right now. I see that there are over a dozen here, and we will hear from the individuals in the order which they registered. Please be mindful of the time for each of the speakers, and it would be great if we could avoid duplicating remarks. If your comments are similar or the same as previous presenters, please note for council that you agree or disagree with that comment. But recall, please, also that there is no decision being recommended at this evening. So we're here to listen, and we're going to hear from everyone and share our comments and input so staff and all of the council can hear. So just having said that, I'm going to ask the first person to speak. That is Sean Hunt, a member of the public, and he's the first registered speaker.
Hi there. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Nice to see everyone this evening. I'm sorry it cut out a bit as I got admitted into the room, but I think you're ready for me to speak.
You are on the.
Okay.
Yeah, your turn.
Hi. Wasn't expecting to be first. Thank you, council and staff, as well as the applicant for this opportunity. I'm a resident at 2 Mayapple at the front and the first phase of Timberwalk, and I guess within the notice area. I'm extremely supportive of a wide range of housing development types immediately in our own neighborhood and within Ilderton, as well as tenures, rental properties, rental opportunities, multi. I think we already, even though the existing development in Timberwalk consists of single detached, we have an incredibly broad range of age groups and families, all the way up to seniors who live here. And we have a community that is engaged across all age groups as we think of, activities that take place at the community center, wing nights at the arena, things like that. I think we all want a sustainable community where people can live in our community in sustainable ways throughout their lifetime. And so I'm really, I think this is an innovative approach that obviously is well received in a lot of communities, and I'm supportive of this type of development right here practically in my backyard. But I think that I think it's important that we have accessible, walkable communities that are interconnected, and I can say this, I mean, it's not just families who use our parks and our walking trails. We've seen that perhaps particularly during the pandemic, but every single day, people of all ages walk throughout our community, and connections to our community and accessibility through the provision of sidewalks and connections to other areas of the community are important to me as a member of the community. And I think that providing access to Mossywood Walk thereby provides extension access to the rail trail and creates loops for children and for older residents. And I think it promotes an active lifestyle. And I think I understand the applicant's position that sidewalks represent more maintenance and perhaps liability, but I think that they're good design that is reflected in the municipality's commitment to Vision Zero, which is pedestrian safety. And I think we can support this type of development with perhaps a few less units to accommodate sidewalks and perhaps not have the setback issues that seem to be particularly of concerns to neighbors. And I also, I don't know if this is an appropriate time to ask, but I'm trying to understand how the stormwater connection without stormwater facilities like other adjoining developments, how the stormwater is handled on a so densely populated property. And I'm not opposed to multi-use development because we have other similar developments at the other end of the subdivision within Ilderton. So I think that sums it up. I'm extremely supportive of this type of development. I'd like to see opportunities for our older residents to continue to be a part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Next up, we have Keith Crawford, member of the public. Here we go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, hello, Mr. Crawford. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My name is Keith Crawford, 113 King Street in Ilderton, Ontario. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak here tonight. I am going to share my screen. Just one moment for that. Okay, you should be able to see that now. And I do have some prepared remarks here and some opening thoughts. First of all, I think that all concerned here in the neighborhood and whatnot are understanding, and we appreciate that whether they're in attendance here or not, that we understand that development happens. Nobody's naive to the point that where we expect existing use land, we don't expect it to remain exactly as it is. I don't believe that any of us are anti-development, and this isn't a situation where anyone is saying no to development in my backyard. In fact, there's many parts of the proposal that are welcome to the community, and I'd reiterate some of Sean's or Mr. Hunt's points there, that there's a general feeling that luxury style development for mature adults is welcome and desirable in the community. Many of us appreciate a one-floor style complex that meets the needs of the clientele and meets the development's intended clientele. From all accounts, it appears that the quality and the build and the finishings of the individual units is desirable, like the plans in Strathroy and whatnot. However, we do have some concerns that I'll go through. We are concerned that the development is squeezing as much as possible into this particularly small footprint in this residential 3 zoning request. As someone with a lot of corporate experience, I get it, I understand that, but it feels like the development could, be looking at this as just maximizing profit by the square inch, rather than looking at, the feel of the entire community, not just the community that they're serving, but the community that's also surrounding it. And I would also say that we would appreciate a development that does a little bit more than just meet the minimum standards of the community and the province. I don't think in our community that anyone really moved to our neighborhood for the bare minimum. We can get that in the city in London, where a lot of us have actually moved from, myself back in 2007. And we'd appreciate a build that respects the spirit of the neighborhood that we're in right now. A lot of us have larger lots, and this is why we chose to live in the community. We'd like to see a development that fits that and makes sense with the infrastructure that we have and that is compatible with that infrastructure. We'd like to see a development that preserves some of the great features of our neighborhood and some of the surrounding properties to that development, such as the pocket of trees and wildlife habitat that's lining the back of several properties on King Street and Violet Court or Mossy Wood Walk. Some specific concerns that I can go through are that there are retaining walls and whatnot that are, and possibly some fencing that might be in this design. And we'd like to ensure that this is 100% on the development's property, that there are concerns that in the future, if there were repair issues, that we might have a shared responsibility in that. And after some previous experiences in the past year or so with Meadow Creek residents on Hyde Park Road, that would be a concern to some of us. There is and appears to be inadequate parking, snow storage, traffic flow for emergency vehicles or construction vehicles. And in fact, all traffic appears to be routed through the old narrow George Street with homes that are very close to the road. And there are some doubts that this road can handle the type of heavy equipment and emergency vehicles. Also, the regular daily traffic of the residents in the area would be significantly increased. And I know in terms of the 55 plus community that you're gearing the proposal towards, that they are much less likely to go out as frequently as family dwellers and whatnot. However, I don't think there's any guarantee that the community or your facility would only be able to serve those clientele. I believe that would be a rights violation, that if you can't restrict certain people from renting if they want to rent. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later, but I'll get back to a little bit on neighborhood consistency. There we go. Space is important to the residents that have moved and built in the neighborhood. They've paid for spacious lots, and now many are going to be abutting several decks per plot that are only 14 feet from the property line, approximately. I don't have the exact metric to imperial conversions there, but it does appear that this is one way for the developer to be able to squeeze the 45 units onto the plot. And this seems to be inconsistent with the spirit of the neighborhood and the feeling of the neighborhood. We've all moved away. And again, I'm reiterating that we've moved away from high density in the city and whatnot. And this isn't a case where, we don't understand that those weren't the plans of this particular developer. But at the time, again, that's not a slight or anything against the developer in this case. This is just, the feeling of the residents expecting one thing and now having a different type of thing proposed. Personally, my property will have 2.5 units lining my back property line and another one on a corner on the corner of the lot, meaning basically 4 sets of windows and decks are going to be able to look into my backyard. Where currently we have a protected tree view with a windbreak protection. And I think everyone in Ilderton knows how much wind we get here, and sometimes even barbecuing can be a challenge on a lot of days in the summer, and that windbreak is very, very welcome for us. And again, that feels inconsistent with the spirit of the neighborhood that we currently have. Many other homeowners may have that same sort of experience. Sorry, I probably should have moved that slide a little bit further, but you get the point. Here's a picture that I've taken from the property line and what 14 feet looks like, where the back deck of the proposed units would be. And where the treed lot is there, you can see that it would be virtually impossible to save any of these trees, especially if a swale has to go in to control stormwater and whatnot. And I can attest to the fact that this area after rains does flood frequently, and that swale does provide a lot of protection. But if that needs to be modified, that first row of trees is going to definitely have to come out. And I believe there's something like 8 rows of trees there. This is the view from my backyard, and you can see it's a beautiful view there that we've got and very protected. And instead of this, those trees would be clear cut, and we're going to have 4 different units backing onto that particular property. Looking at the proposal and comparing it with the pictures provided, you can see that this is going to be very difficult for the 14 feet to accommodate any of those trees. I don't want to repeat myself, so just one moment here. The density doesn't really allow for much green space, and this will impact the drainage further. And anyone in Ilderton knows that we have very hard clay. It's very hard for the water to dissipate. And with the density of this particular project, there is not going to be a lot of green space, which will, make drainage even more of an issue. And I'm concerned that some of this will actually push onto our property, and other residents in the surrounding community may have to be dealing with this type of thing as well. The single family properties are more likely to preserve the majority of this treed area, and there's really no need to destroy most of it if there's a very responsible plan that respects the surrounding community. And again, we are all for development in the area.
We need to wrap it up, Mr. Crawford.
Okay, absolutely. I'll get to a few different points here. And I believe there's another member that won't be able to attend, and she's requested to yield her time to me as well to finish my proposal.
The clerk has indicated that each speaker has the time limit, and we need to respect those rules. Thank you.
Okay, you can see the view here from various different directions of those treed areas. I'll move on to traffic congestion on George Street. So you can see here, there's a picture of a truck on the side of the road, and it's actually parked partially on the property. If there's 2 trucks or whatnot parked on George Street, it will be impossible for any emergency vehicles to get down this path, or construction vehicles. George Street wasn't really designed for this type of heavy construction traffic. And currently in the Timberwalk area, all construction traffic was coming off of 10 Mile Road and going down the Songbird extension. that would be requested in any sort of development or whatnot that is taking place. This is also a further concern.
I'm sorry, I have to ask you to, we're gone over your time, and I'm sure other people, we have 12 speakers come, or 11 more speakers to come. So I need to make sure everyone has a chance.
I understand, Madam Mayor. Could I go through to some of our request considerations then?
I've been told that you're welcome to write those in if you'd like to submit your deck or a written document. That would be for the record.
I would be happy to do that, as long, yes, to make sure that gets circulated and into the record.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep, you've got it all done. Just send it in. Okay, thank you very much. I have to move now to Erica and Chris Hayes, members of the public. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. 7:49. We're not yet. 7:50.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, long time listener, first time speaker. Thanks for having me. I am the neighbor that is on the other side of those trees from the previous speaker there. I would just like to echo the points made by the speakers before me. I don't have anything to add. If anything, I would be reading off of that beautiful PowerPoint, as I think it articulates our concerns very well. So my preference would be to yield my time back to the previous speaker, but I don't think that's an option available to us. So I'll just say that was well put, and thanks for your input. I don't have any else to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Then Adam and Abby Gunther are the next people to speak. Are they there?
Yep, we're just in the process of bringing them on.
Okay,
and
good.
Abby's there now.
Yep, there it is. I see the name. When you're ready, Abby, go ahead.
One more prompt and we'll move to the next person. You can ask it once more. If Abby can.
Abby, can you hear us?
Okay, we're going to move to the next speaker, Katie.
Katie? Yeah. Okay. Oh, Katie Robson is the next speaker then. There she is.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Katie.
Hi, my name is Katie Robson. I live at 306 George Street. So as you can see, I'm very close to the new development. I'd like to just reiterate the fact that we are, many of us are not opposed to new development. I think, sorry, I need to put my thoughts together. I think one of the things to consider is that 55 plus does not mean that people are staying home and doing nothing. There's lots of people that are 55 plus that are still working. Also, there's no amenities in Ilderton, like shopping and groceries, hospitals, and things like that. So to think that the residents of that new development are going to be staying home, we do know that those residents are going to have to leave town to get their groceries and to go shopping and to go to the hospital and things like that. So I think it's a bit naive to think that the traffic through there is going to be so low. I have intimate knowledge of the other private development, Vintage Green, and of the people that live there. Without the sidewalks, I think it's a safety hazard. I have a family member that lives in there, and it's kind of like playing senior Frogger over our seniors that are walking down the road. And it's a danger. I think the reason that's been implemented into the plan is to save money, or rather to make more money for the developer. I think I have a serious concern about the stormwater management and what the grading. I believe the water and the stormwater will come downhill. It will negatively impact the homes on George Street. Also, a number of the homes on George Street are homes that were built in the 1800s. And I think about big 2-ton trucks driving up and down that road with the older infrastructure of George Street. And I think you're going to have a lot of damage to some of these homes that were built in the 1800s. So I have lots of concerns about that because I am one of those houses that was built in.
Did we lose her? No. Did you have more comments, Katie?
I actually had to purchase a new vehicle to get off my street in the winter because the maintenance on George Street is not great. And there were many times I couldn't get to work based on the fact that the snow removal on that street was not well done. So I am concerned about having that many more vehicles traveling up and down that street, given what I know about George Street, as I have been one of the longest term residents on this street at this time. So I have been here for 16 years. So I've done 16 winters. And I think, yeah, I had to buy a new vehicle to get off the street so I could get to work. So I have consistent concerns about that. Again,
having some connectivity issues
as well is very concerning. So ultimately, I do agree with the other presenters, but there are a number of concerns that I think put residents in danger and children and people that are walking in danger. So again, I won't take up more than that because I do think that I agree with the other presenters at this point. Madam Mayor and Council, I appreciate your time. And I'm going to end now so you can listen to hopefully more of my colleagues that will bring forth other concerns that we have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming, Katie. Next we have Jim and Joanne Kelly.
Joanne is on the call.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Joanne. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
We are at 13181 Ilderton Road. So we have 2.5 acres with the horses in the pasture. We're concerned with the fact that we had been approached by Siftons before that there was going to be a road coming down from like Mossy Oak down through our property and perhaps tie into George Street. So we haven't talked to anyone as far as developing our property, but we're just wondering what could happen to our property if this large development ties already into George. What happens with our property? We've already got the easement through, we've been disrupted. We have an easement through our property to add sewer and water to tie into George Street from the Siftons property. So we're just wondering, you know, what could happen with the potential of our property. We're just kind of in limbo. We don't exactly know what's going to be happening. And if this big development happens back there, is our property going to be worth less? I don't know if anybody could speak to that or not.
This is actually a meeting where input is being collected, as opposed to a dialogue or a conversation. So you would be presenting your concerns. These are all being noted. So
Okay.
it hasn't disappeared. It won't disappear. This is one of the comments that, yeah.
All right.
But you
Yeah,
won't
because-
necessarily get a black and white answer or anything like that at this point in time.
All right. Well, that's our concern. We just having all those. Well, there could be what, 8 houses or something backing on to just our property at the back. I mean, we've got lots of neighbors as it is now with the Timberwalk subdivision, but we just have some concerns. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you for your input.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next is Norm Douglas.
Norm has dropped off, so we're going to jump to our next one, which is Ashley Roberts.
Okay, then Ashley Roberts.
Ashley is here. We're just bringing her on the call.
Okay. Yeah, she's there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're on, Ashley.
Oh, hi. I just want to say thank you for allowing me the time to speak. I don't really have a whole lot to add. The other members of the neighborhood have presented the points very well. Just to give some context, we live at 12 Violet Court. So we are backing onto the last property on Mill Street before you hit Violet. And so I guess just my husband's concern and my concern, when we bought this property, we bought it specifically because of the tree buffer. It allows for a lot of privacy. The kids like to go and play in there. There's, rabbits, birds, they go catch frogs. They really enjoy playing in that wooded area. I'm not opposed to new development. It does make me quite happy that it's going to be single-story homes, as a concern for us is having a 2 or 3 story home in our backyard. We bought this lot specifically for the privacy, and we were told by Sifton that that lot of trees was going to stay. So it was a little bit of a shock when all of a sudden I looked at these plans and that tree buffer was going to disappear. The other just concern that I wanted to raise is the emergency access and that intersection. It's already actually quite tricky when vehicles are attempting to turn. It's not very wide coming, onto Mill Street. And then if you're going to be having, large volume traffic, school buses, it's just not really, the road's not appropriate for the amount of traffic that is going to now be coming through there. Those are just the points that we wanted to add to the great PowerPoint that the neighbors had put together. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much. Abby Vincent.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, you're on.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I make concern regarding the aged people, that senior people coming to live near our neighborhood. It will be welcoming, but the real concern for me, it's driving in the winter time from Hyde Park to the Ilderton. There is no street lights and the visibility is less, and the roads are very narrow. Those kinds of infrastructure is developed, and we are welcoming this senior aged people. It will be more convenient for them.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kim Cash.
No, Kim.
No, Kim? Oh, so we have, is it Keith and Janine Crawford?
Let's go to Gisa Roche.
Gisa Rose?
Yes, please.
Okay, Gisa Rose? None of these people are there?
And I'm just seeing if we have any remaining speakers.
No.
We've got one more in Peter Millister.
Peter Millister?
Yes.
Okay.
Millister, and I'm bringing him on now.
Okay. Yes, Peter Millister. Oh, there. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. I think the major point I'd like to bring forward is it's a single entrance community building surrounded by a fence and retaining walls. The developer, Anthony, talked about community within the development itself, but community development outside of that with the rest of Ilderton is non-existent with this plan. Number one, there's no way of connecting apart from driving. If you're disabled or need a mobility scooter, forget it. Access to the rail trail, which all ages, especially seniors, I would highlight, even in winter, are using, is non-existent with this development. The notion of this community becoming a part of the larger community, I don't see it happening because of the way it's being built. As a result, the interconnection with these people, with the rest of the community, is not really going to develop. If they want to go and do their shopping or get their hair cut or go to the King Edward, for example, they're going to have to walk on the road up George Street and down to Ilderton Road. All of that to say that from a community development enhancement perspective, I don't see it. I see it as a closed gated community, which essentially is a horizontal apartment building with all the asphalt and cement. You know, there's very minimal lawn here. And in terms of community infrastructure within the place for people to congregate, say beyond your neighbor's patio, it isn't there. If you want to have a meeting of 30 people or whatever, 20, you're going to have to do it on the street. The second thing is they're talking about 22 cars maximum joining the traffic at King and Elderton. I don't believe that. You know, 22 added to the traffic flow already is going to be a problem, especially when you look at the traffic that's in front of the group of stores that are right next to the convenience store and the pet food store and the pizza shop. There's always cars parked there. 1, 3, sometimes 4. There's no such thing as empty space there. So as a result, you're going to have to put in turning lanes sooner than later. And the stormwater issue, I think, is very real because as was mentioned before, we have hard clay, which acts like asphalt everywhere you look. Water just runs off and piles up. Those are the major points I'd like to bring forward. In terms of, again, just to highlight the interaction of this group of 45 houses with the rest of the community, it's not going to happen the way it's being presented to you. And then the second thing is the George Street, King Street, Ilderton scenario is not what you call a ideal intersection for any type of traffic because you have a dog leg and old roads with narrow turning radiuses. And yes, big trucks are not allowed, but they still come through for the middle, for the Timberwalk development. And they do have to be very careful when they make their turns because it's pretty sharp. And given the age of the roads, they're going to fall apart sooner than later. In fact, they're already falling apart. Anyway, those are my major concerns. And if you're somewhat disabled and you want to go for a visit through this area, you're going to have fun, because you're going to have to go down George Street and then drive down the road here and come back up the hill again. And in the wintertime, yeah, snow piles up, and where's it going to go? Because there's no space for it. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Nicole Patsalis.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, you have the floor, Nicole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And sorry, I didn't know if I'd get my little one to bed in time, but this was working out perfect for me.
Oh, good. Okay, go ahead.
So my name is Nicole Patsalis, and I live with my husband, Nico Patsalis, at 111 King Street, Ilderton. Just at the corner of King, where the cul-de-sac used to be, is now a through road into Violet Court. We moved here about 5 years ago and definitely love the idea of moving to a small town. We grew up in big cities. We wanted to know our neighbors. We are excited about a development going in behind our property. We're right beside Keith Crawford, as you have seen those pictures. Our property is lined with those beautiful trees, very mature trees. But we always did want to know that, hey, one day we can, stand outside and talk to our neighbors. There are a couple big concerns that we do have, and we did kind of gather virtually before this to gather our thoughts together. So hopefully Keith will send in that presentation to you, Madam Mayor, and you can review that in detail. But I know Anthony had mentioned about the traffic survey, and Pete had just alluded to it as well. I want to also remind everyone that we're living in a very unique world right now, and we have been for over 14 months, where traffic has been at a minimum. People are ordered home to work from home. Schools are virtually not running, therefore kids are not walking to and from their bus stops. For us specifically, we walk all the way to Ilderton Road beside the flower shop. So you can imagine taking a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a newborn across George Street, zigzagging that little S with cars, and then crossing the major road of Ilderton Road. It is concerning. Sadly, we don't walk to school that often because it's just not safe for us to do that. We have to pile in the car and we have to get to that stop. So that is a big concern, is the traffic.
Uh-oh.
No.
Sorry, did I lose you there?
Just for a minute, you dropped off.
Yeah, so not opposed to the development, and maybe just a concession is to open up that through road to that court of Mossywood there, to allow more traffic to flow in and out. So there's not just one point of entry and exit. And again, if maybe there's a couple less units to allow that movement, again, we're open to the conversation, we're open to the idea, and we're open to new neighbors. That's not, I think, the debate on the table. Again, the stormwater, I don't need to talk about that because I think a lot of other neighbors have mentioned that. The through road, which has been spoken about. And then the other thing I will say is we do own a local restaurant in London. And to a couple of the comments about the senior residents kind of staying put, I'm going to have to say that is not an accurate statement. We actually are so proud to say that we get so many residents from Ilderton who pretty much helped us get our restaurant running from the day we opened. It's going to be 4 years, June. And a lot of those people that did come in were over 55 plus, and they helped us establish our business. They are looking to get out. They are looking to be in the community. They're looking to connect with their neighbors and not just the complex of neighbors. So that kind of really hit home as we were talking about that older generation and their family to us, and to say that they're not going to go out and experience Ilderton and the surrounding communities, I think is not factual. So the other thing, I guess, is I don't really have anything. I'm open to it. I love the idea of bungalows. I love the idea of that, single level, a mature resident living there. A retaining wall. Well, we talked about that with the stormwater. Maybe a concession of that is to build a retaining wall on our side of the property. So again, not necessarily on our properties, but lining King Street all the way down to help with that drainage, to help push that water away from our properties. And I'm just going to quickly look at my notes here to make sure. Yeah, again, and those trees do absorb a lot of that water that comes in. So again, preserving that natural Ilderton rural feel that we all moved here for. I think that's where I'll leave it, Madam.
Madam Mayor, you're on mute.
Yes, I got a warning there. I'm sorry. I was saying, yes, thank you to Nicole. And I was saying that this brings us to the end of the members of the public who want to speak. So now I will turn to council for questions that they may have of the applicant or their agent. We'll start with Councillor Heffernan.
Through the mayor and to, I guess, Marion or Anthony or Cindy, these are actually just comments, as this is a comment a session. The one fact that we're going to have is another seniors development is, to me, is a good thing. And I like the layout of it. Because it's seniors, we don't have to worry about the school, which is already at capacity, or actually over. And so that's a good thing. However, I do have to agree with the comments. I think it was Mr. Gubbles that said community access is a low priority. And I would have to say that we do have a Vintage Green and a seniors complex already. And a lot of those seniors walk, and they walk all over the neighborhood, all over on the sidewalks, and join the trails. And I would really like to see, if possible, the second entrance at Mossy Wood Walk, just because of, again, the traffic, which I realized there was a traffic study, but actually Nicole alluded to some of the reasons why it wouldn't have worked out, because of the pandemic mainly. Yes, that is an old street. I think that's probably the oldest street in Ilderton. It's George Street and King Street there. And with the traffic, increased traffic from the Siftons from Violet Court, that's already putting pressure on those streets. So if we could alleviate that by actually having two entrances, that would be beneficial. It has been mentioned about the drainage, and I would also like to ask about sewage capacity. I don't know if it's already built in, but that's something for our PWE to work on to make sure. But when Siftons was built, we had to add a lot of capacity and put in a trunk line. I'm just wondering how that's all going to connect. And I noticed there was an auxiliary building on site there. I just wondered what that is for exactly. It didn't say that it was a meeting place, but I'm just wondering what that's for.
Councilor, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to answer your question there. The auxiliary building is to house our irrigation. We irrigate all the lawns, so that's where the equipment is stored in that building there.
Okay. Oh, thanks. And I'm assuming that the existing house and sheds are demolished then?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think the neighbors in the area certainly covered a lot of stuff. So at this time, I have nothing else to add to what they have said other than concerns with traffic, walking, and sewage.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll look to other members.
Sorry, one quick thing I just want to add, just really quick, is that the traffic study that
you've gone to mute, Cindy.
Sorry about that. One quick thing I just wanted to add is that the traffic study that we did have completed was completed before the pandemic. It was actually completed in March of last year, before like the stay-at-home orders and everything were associated. So I just wanted to make that very clear.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to Councillor Arts. I think you had your hand up, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Through your Mayor, to Cindy and Anthony. I go to Strathroy quite a bit, and those old age, well, senior, whatever you want to call them, I like them. They look really nice. It wasn't one of yours, but I've been in one, and it works. The people in there were happy. The lawns are all capped up. Like, they are very appealing. The only concern, the biggest concern I would have is stormwater, because Illerton's not stormwater friendly. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I had a little complication getting the mute button off. Yes, I just want to make some comments also. When I was canvassing around Delaware, that's all I heard from people, is that people that have been there for years wanted to stay in their own town and retire to something small, whether it be a rental or a purchase. And I can confirm that the ones in Strathroy, I got the opportunity a couple of years to go through them, those exact ones that they've done. And I was really impressed with it. Their construction is well made. It was brick. I think they even had steel roofs maybe. But anyway, the construction was really nice. They had front and back porches. I got the tour inside one too. And it was definitely a luxury unit. My interest in that was obviously because for Delaware and probably some of our small communities, I think it'd be a great asset. So I know you got to work out the details of how it fits into each community, but I'd be in favor of them also. So I just wanted to add those comments.
Thank you. Councillor Cates, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I want to just say I agree with what Councillor Scott said about the need for people that have lived, in my example, Kamulka, Kilworth, have lived there for many, many, many years, and now they want somewhere, somewhere that they can go to and stay in the community. So I totally agree with that. I also agree with a lot of what Councillor Heffernan said as well, and some of the residents about the connectivity for the people to get out and about to the community and to some amenities, and that definitely people like to walk. I'm actually on the board of the Kamulka Seniors Apartments, and we, over the past couple of years, installed a sidewalk around the buildings, and it's amazing how much the people use it. So, going from not having one to then installing one, it was a wonderful. People have a knee replacement, or just they socialized out there more. So, just wanted to add that a little bit, as well. This may not fit the same scenario as you, because you do have the roadway and it's sort of your own little private roadway in there. So I just wanted to add, though, that sidewalks, could be a benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comment, observation, concerns? None. Okay, well, I think then we've got lots of content to digest. Oh, did you want to comment, Cindy? I saw your hand moving.
Yes, sorry. I just want to say one more thing, just kind of our position on the connectivity through Mossy Woods there, and continuing it through our development there. I just want to reiterate the fact that it is a private development, right? So that's our property through there. So if there was going to be a connectivity, it's going to be on private grounds, right? So that being said, all the liability of that is on us, right? Now that it's a private road and we've designed it for emergency access. I know that was some people's concerns, that with the roundabout there, that it is wide enough. The roads are wide enough that emergency vehicles can get in and out safely. But that being said, if we are to open that up, that allows the public onto our private lands, and that puts all the responsibility and all the liability now on us. And also, again, I just want to reiterate that private road is privately maintained by us, right? We would be responsible for the snow removal and everything on that, on all of our property, and the maintenance on that as well too. So that is our concern with that connection to Mossy Woods.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. If there are no more questions, then the motion before us is that Planning Report 32, 2021 regarding the zoning bylaw amendment application for.
You want Anthony to speak?
Oh, Anthony. Oh, before we, okay.
You want to?
Oh, sure. We don't hear you, Anthony.
No, I'll be muted.
Oh, okay. Sure, we'll wrap it up with him.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Am I unmuted now?
You are, and you have the last word then.
That's rare. I never get that in my house. There's a lot of comments have been received, and the feedback's important and it's appreciated. There are some misconceptions, however, and I just want to put this out there for the benefit of the members of council in taking this away and considering the application. And that is, I don't want to duplicate comments, but I want to echo what Cindy has said about the sidewalk issue. We would encourage pedestrian connections at the limits of the development, but what we do not want is a means for public access through a private development. That presents a liability and there's problems associated with it. The single access community that we talked about, it meets your site plan design criteria. There's concerns about the density of the development. Under the R3 zone, the developer is entitled to put in 30 units per hectare. Our yield is at 23, so we're substantially below maximum densities, and comments have been made about the developer trying to max out everything to maximize revenues. It's not about that. It's about developing and having a regard for the surrounding neighborhood in the context of its physical setting. It isn't about not putting sidewalk in because it's money in the developer's pocket. That's not the issue at all. Road capacity. This is going to come as a bit of a stinger for most people listening on this, and that is a local road has capacity. An 8.5 meter wide local street has vehicle capacity of 1,500 vehicles per day. I appreciate there are some unique circumstances here in terms of intersections and hills, grades and condition of the road, but the TAC manual, which is the Bible for road design, actually suggests there's 3,000 vehicle per day capacity on a local collector. Other sources suggest 1,500. Anyway, at 22 vehicles in the morning, 29 vehicles at night, we're not getting anywhere close to 1,500 or 3,000 vehicles per day. Mature trees on the property. The last thing that we do when we design a site is identify trees for removal. Trees are an asset to the project and to the community. There's numerous direct and indirect benefits. The last thing we want to do is remove trees that we can incorporate into the landscape. Unfortunately, there's often conflicts with physical features, roads, dwelling units, services, and grade changes around the property. Again, it's not something that we enjoy doing, watching trees get cut down. Unfortunately, more often than not, it's out of necessity. Traffic volumes presented in the report. The traffic impact study was completed. Its analysis is completely independent of the pandemic conditions that we have found ourselves in since the early part of last year. The statistics are driven from a traditional medium density residential development. Has nothing to do with COVID-19 whatsoever. So I just want to make that very, very clear. Stormwater management seems to be a hot topic. The site is designed such that under the 100-year storm event, and when I say a 100-year storm event, it has the probability statistically of occurring once every, 100 years. Under that event, all of the stormwater is self-contained on the development site through surface storage, underground storage. It is completely self-contained within the limits of the property. External capacity for sanitary water and storm, there's capacity for those services. As the engineer for Gold Leaf Properties, it's my responsibility and duty to ensure that before we file an application and do all the design work, that there's capacity in those external municipal systems, and there are. I think that pretty much covers the majority of the comments.
Well, I think you, yeah, this is say it's not a debate or we're not,
No.
the purpose is to collect. I think you've identified some of the things that you've recognized from the residents' comments and clarified a number of points. Hopefully you've got content now that will help you move forward with incorporating things into design and discussions. And
absolutely, it wasn't intended to be presented as a debate. It was provided for informational purposes.
Yes, which is why I didn't cut you off. Okay, so thank you for those comments. As I say, I think we've got lots of good input from residents, and you've clarified some things for council as well now. So I am going to call the motion that that report 32/2021 regarding the zoning bylaw amendment application filed by Gold Leaf Properties be received for information. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Shipley. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, that is passed, and we'll look forward to seeing the next steps. Thank you very much, everyone. And we can now move to the final application, which is zoning bylaw amendment 6/2021 for 131 Harris Road, filed by Phil Patton. And Marion is going to present the report for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. The municipality received an application for a zoning bylaw amendment for the lands known as 131 Harris Road in Delaware. I'll just bring up a property map for you. Okay, so as you can see, the application is related to the consent application B26/2020 that was before council in March, and requests that the proposed severed parcel, be rezoned from existing use to community residential first density, or CR1, and that the retained lands be rezoned to a site-specific community residential first density zone. Both requests would permit a single detached dwelling, home occupation, and accessory use on each parcel. So the lands are located on the north side of Harris Road and currently are about 12 acres in area. The severed portion would consume approximately 0.9 acres of land, and the retained lands would be just over 11 acres. The property contains a single detached dwelling and also contains some regulated area as a result of hazard lands, natural heritage features, including significant woodland and wetland, which are all located on the northern portion of the property. The lands are also located within the special policy area in Delaware, which only permits development to occur along public right-of-ways when municipal services are not provided. And the intention of this policy is to prevent any premature development on partial or private servicing. So this application was circulated to residents and agencies. At the time of writing this report, we did not receive any concerns from neighbors, nor did we receive any leading up to this meeting. The chief building official had reviewed this application and would prefer that no development occur on the retained parcel until full services are provided, which is in conformity with the special policy area. However, he is open to limited development on this property. Additionally, the Conservation Authority did not provide any comments at the time of writing the report. However, in earlier conversations with the Conservation Authority, it did advise that the regulated area and presence of the woodland and wetland features would require review of any development before building permits are issued. And this would require the applicant to provide a development assessment report. Staff also received written comments from the CA recently, and they did indicate that all new development on the retained lands must be located a minimum of 50 meters from the edge of the woodland or wetland areas, as well as the hazard lands, and this is in conformity with some of the natural heritage policies contained in the official plan. If development is proposed closer to these areas, then again, a development assessment report would be required. Finally, the Conservation Authority had recommended that a site-specific zone for the site-specific zone within the CR1 zone be located a minimum of 50 meters away from the drip line of the woodland or wetland or the top of bank slope, whichever is greater, and that until a technical study is completed, the Conservation Authority recommends that the northern portion of the retained lands continue to be zoned as existing use. In general, the requested community residential first density zone for the severed parcel meets the intent of the official plan and the special policy area, as well as standards of the zoning bylaw. The retained parcel does contain that woodland, wetland, and hazardland features. As such, staff do recommend that the rezoning does not affect the woodland area and permits only development in the southern portion. And this is to avoid any negative impacts of development. The northern half of this property would also remain in the existing use zone. To avoid locking the rest of the parcel from development, staff have also recommended that a setback of approximately 100 meters from the front lot line be provided, and this would prevent any dwellings from being located in what would be a future right-of-way for future development. And then lastly, to avoid any impacts to surrounding development and in consideration of future development in the area, staff recommend that a minimum side yard setback of 8 meters from the interior lot lines be provided. And this is consistent with some of the rear yard setbacks from the community residential zone. So given the above, staff determined that the requested zoning bylaw amendment application is consistent with the PPS County Official Plan and Middlesex Official Plan, and recommend that the severed parcel be rezoned to community residential first density or CR1, and that the retained parcel be partially rezoned to a new site-specific community residential first density exception 5 zone. And thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
I'm on mute. Sorry about that. Thank you, Marion, for that presentation. So I don't think we have any more correspondence here. Is Mr. Patton on the line to speak to this application?
Yes, I am here if there's any questions, if you can hear me.
Okay, so all right. I will turn to council then. Is there any question of the applicant or the planner on this? Yes, Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor to Marion, if we approve this, is that minimum lot frontage like the 100 meters and the minimum, is that part of this, or is that we have to put that in? But I'll approve it, but I want those conditions in it. So however that works.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Arts, yes, we drafted the zoning bylaw amendment for that site-specific zone to accommodate that 100-meter setback from the front lot line, as well as the 8-meter setback from any interior lot lines.
Okay, just want to make sure I had that right. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other question? Councillor Scott.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had I think I got a couple of my questions answered already. Just wanted to get clarification again, maybe through Marion. So with this CR15 zoning, I know we wanted to kind of protect that property from, for future use, if something else does come, if sewers or something comes in the future, or a vacant land proposal comes. Does that protect it is that how the entrance is protected, so that the applicant could do something in the future? As far as, a vacant land proposal, or if sewers come, then that would be just trying to protect that whole concept of good land use, you know what I mean? And if it doesn't come, then one house it is.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Scott, that's correct. We tried to draft up the bylaw and try to restrict development to a certain area of the land and avoid development within that area fronting onto Harris Road to accommodate a future roadway should it ever go in for future development.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, well, then we can consider the motion, which is that the zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 06-2021 as amended for 131 Harris Road, filed by Phil Patton to rezone the severed parcel from existing use EU to community residential first density CR1, and to rezone the retained parcel FRP existing use EU to community residential first density exception 5, CR1-5 be approved. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cates and Councillor Scott, is anyone opposed? Seeing none, then that is carried. And now we need a motion that Planning Committee does now close the planning public meetings and reconvene as the regular council, meeting of council at 8:40 p.m. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Heffernan and Deputy Mayor Brennan, any opposed? Seeing none, we're in regular session, and the only thing remaining on our agenda was the bylaw. And those are as follows. The motion is that bylaw 2021-16 and bylaw 2021-42 through to bylaw 2021-45 on the April 28th, 2021 agenda be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Shipley and Councillor Cates, any opposed? Seeing none. And the only thing remaining then is to move that council for the municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourn the April 28th, 2021 regular council meeting at 8:40 p.m. Mover and seconder, Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan, any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. And thank you, council, for all your work tonight. And that would be, yes, we're done. Good night, Sue. Wave.